call this special meeting of the Groton Board of Education to order. First, I'd like to recognize Dr. Clint Kennedy just to discuss the new technology in the room.
I will be brief. Thank you, everyone. We were very successful in getting the PEG-PISA 2023 grant, which allowed us to provide these mics that you see in front of you, as well as the new camera technology and so forth. And tonight is beta test night. So we are live, like we typically are via Zoom. We are also live via YouTube. And I have the full tech team here monitoring and so forth. So appreciate everyone's patience. We are up and we're running and we're tested and we're excited, but a few thoughts on these. One, these mics do not need to move, be touched, or anything. The only thing you really need to do is there's a button. If it's red, you're muted. If it's green, you're live. You can see I'm live right now. A couple things. Prefer you don't grab the mic, pull it forward and backwards, because you're going to add noise. If you have books and so forth, try not to bang it. And I know that at times I've seen, not this group, but others, they'll grab it because they want to make a point and so forth. These are designed to pick you up as best if you're 12 to 18 inches from this. And again, all you really need to do is hit the button off or on. You don't need to pull it towards you, push it away, what have you. You can leave it right where it is, assuming you have your materials and so forth. But it works best just how it is. It will work if you move it around, but there could be interference or what have you. So thank you. I'm going to be monitoring it. I will try not to interrupt, but we're excited about this new functionality. We think it's better for people viewing, for recording and the like, and we want to make sure that everybody can hear what everyone has to say. So thank you. Any questions for me? Thank you very much. And guest speakers for tonight, as you're called up or whatever, this is your seat, because we have the second camera that will get the guest speaker. What you're seeing on the board is not what's being streamed live. This is set up so it's better for us in here. The public is actually seeing the full picture of this entire board and so forth, and it'll switch back and forth based on who's speaking or what have you. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Dr.
So tonight is a budget work session. We are going to begin with Chapter 3, Secondary Instruction. And who will be leading us off?
So I would like to lead and just tell, I'd like to be able to lead and just tell the board that they will have a full budget book by the end of this week, that you now have function codes, which are really the total of departments, looking at it at a district perspective, along with hearing from each of the school principals, the special education. You'll also get a page on teaching and learning tonight and a page on central office. So what we've tried to do, especially with new board members, is to showcase and have digestible doses of the budget, so you can kind of do the deep dive, look to answer questions, and then to get the backup documents, which really are our accounting system, which we call function codes. And they really give us totals in number. And we've had other questions asking for more details. So function codes will be in your board packet for the future chapters that we have. You should have up to Chapter 3 now, and the other two will be coming along. And then any frequently asked questions, we're putting together a Google Doc, and we'll be presenting that with links, and those will go into board notes. And the board notes, actually, there's a lot of board notes that actually go to everybody. So all staff gets it, and our RTM and town council. So we try to use that as a communication weekly update. So we will really start with our, I guess, Principal Bass Middle School is going to start. And we do have a document that kind of showcases our middle school on the campus with Fitch. And some of the details, I do appreciate there's so many people online. I see faculty, staff, and others, you know, some other board members and directors. So I really appreciate this real interest in the budget. Thank you very much for attending.
Good evening, everyone.
You need to turn on your mic.
That won't be the last time you say that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Peter Bass. I'm the principal at Groton Middle School. Thanks for having me this evening. I've been asked to review the budget sheet and give a little bit of background about Groton Middle School and where we are and where we hope to go with the proposed budget. So just a little bit of history about the middle school itself. I'm actually going to go back a few years before Groton Middle actually opened in 2018. Groton received an MSAP grant which is U.S. Department of Education Magnet Schools Assistance Program grant, $5 million. And at that time, we had Cutler Middle School and we had Westside Middle School. And Westside became a STEM magnet school. Cutler became an Arts and Humanities magnet school. And both schools embraced and pursued becoming an International Baccalaureate Middle Years Program, also known as MYP school. So we worked really hard as two schools and then came together in the fall of 2020. And rather than having two separate themes, we joined the themes together and we became a STEAM magnet school, still pursuing MYP. So we have a very rich offering of courses, elective classes, if you will, for middle school students, and I would endeavor to say it's probably the richest I've seen at this level. Just a little bit about MYP. MYP really works to help students learn how to learn, developing their skills for research, critical and creative thinking, communication, collaboration, and self-management. And it really tries to hook in what they're learning to key and related concepts, trying to make it relevant to the world around the real world. And ultimately, having a global context as well, helping students understand the relevance and importance of their study for understanding their common humanity and shared guardianship of the globe. So MYP involves, at the heart of it, lots of teacher collaboration, and which is fantastic. Teachers are meeting to review and revise their unit plans, their MYP planners. And additionally, each year at each grade level, one interdisciplinary unit is required, and teachers from multiple disciplines work together on that. Beyond that, with our STEAM program, we have a variety of arts programs. We have theater, musical theater, playwriting, world drumming, guitar. We have a large variety of arts, dance, as well as 11 Project Lead the Way classes. These are STEM classes that range from app creator,
Coding is one of those things they all have.
it's true, right? So app creator, medical detectives, design and modeling, magic of electrons, flight in space, green architecture, energy and the environment. So very rich. Beyond this, we also, this past year, you may have heard that we incorporated a power-up class. And this power-up class is a 38-minute class that occurs every other day. And it allows students to either get caught up or extend their learning, or sometimes both. And we found this to be quite successful this year. Feedback from teachers and students alike has been very positive. So we're excited about that continuing as we move forward. Beyond the school day, we also offer lots of after-school clubs and activities. I'll share a few with you. This is not an exhaustive list. But Yearbook Club, Lego Robotics Club, Student Council, Drama Club, and our Drama Club has 2 productions a year. We're getting ready for Annie Jr. in just a month and a half or so. And Jazz Band, Dance Club, Puzzle Club, Steel Drum Ensemble, as well as after-school tutoring. And Mr. Romano will talk a bit later about interscholastic sports and intramural sports. With regard to our budget, and you've seen the overview sheet, the priorities for Groton Middle are staff, supplies, and staff training, particularly in MYP, as we have a number of new staff, and we have not yet had anyone trained yet this school year. Also, as I'm sure you've heard from other principals, the academic and social emotional impact from COVID is still with us, and so continuing to fund our math, English language arts, and SEL tutors is critical. The way we built this budget is we looked at historical data over the past few years, also taking into consideration requests that we've received from teachers for both past years as well as upcoming, things that would be essential to the instruction of our students. As you look at the sheet, one thing that is unusual that's not in our budget every year, if you look at the instructional budget, you'll see there's a replace instructional equipment of $24,000. That is not a yearly sort of expenditure, but just so happens that in 2018, we bought the Macs for our Mac lab, and those, talking with Dr. Kennedy, need to be replaced. So that's part of the cost of doing business at a STEAM school. So that's one piece that is unusual for this year. It's something I want to point out to you. So that's a summary of what we're doing at Groton Middle, and we're hopeful that this budget will help us continue to pursue the pieces I just talked about.
Any questions?
Could you tell me more about the Power Up class?
Yes. So Power Up is a time where students get to come in, they get to set a mini goal for what they want to accomplish at that time. And it could be that you want to get caught up on something that they learned about in class already. Maybe they missed a class last week and they have work to make up. That's something that could be done there. They could also work on Dreambox for math to extend their learning in mathematics. They could do some silent sustained reading. They could extend and do an MYP project. They could extend and do other math projects. But it's a time, it's both for catch-up or study, if you will, as well as potentially enrichment.
So what's the teacher's role?
Teacher's role is to facilitate it.
So it's a study hall.
It's not just a study hall. But if we want to think of it in the classic sense, yes, it has some similarities to it.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dr. Eckman.
Do we not have some high-dose tutoring in that also?
Yes,
I feel
actually,
like we are doing some high-dose
just-
tutoring and enrichment. I've heard of students who wanted to actually work on an enrichment project, and their math teacher might coordinate with them to do some kind of a project, or any of their core teachers, and that's a great time for them to do it.
Correct. And yes, actually, our high dosage tutoring grant is being implemented for this school year, and we are able to pull students out of the Power Up so they don't have to come out of another class, academic class during the day to receive the tutoring. You're welcome.
Yeah, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
All right, I've got a few questions. I'll start with Power Up. So in my opinion, maybe not all kids need Power Up. There might be some advanced kids, and I know this from my own experience as well as from talking to other parents. It didn't seem like there was an option to opt out of Power Up. Is that correct?
It depends on what's available within the schedule at any given time. So there may not be an option to take something other than Power Up, depending on how the schedule falls. One of the big limitations that we have at Groton Middle is the size of our school building. It seems large from the outside, but when you actually get into the inner workings of it, our classrooms are full almost all of the time. So we can't offer everything all the time, and we also, as you know, have a set number of teachers. So unfortunately, there are times in which there may not be an option that is to the student's liking or to the parent's liking other than a Power Up.
All right, so I just wanted to understand that a little better. So that'll just continue as kind of a study hall, or, well,
And enrichment.
Power Up. I mean, for a student that's accelerated, it might just more be a study hall or time to do other things. Technology teachers, I saw there was 4 FTEs. What are we adding there? 4 new technology teachers, I think?
No, we're not adding any certified staff. So is it how it,
I think Dave can, you can.
so I know I'm not sure with regard to what's on here, we have both our computer literacy and our STEM teachers. So it's Project Lead the Way.
For your STEM teachers.
Right.
You got to turn it on.
I'll repeat that again. That's where your STEM teachers are.
Correct.
And did some come over, though, from the art Besser? I feel like we did have a couple of those teachers. There were 7.
I know at
My
least one.
recollection, my memory, if it serves me well, there were 7 teaching positions that came over, and I think several of them were at Groton Middle, and I think that was specifically a couple of the STEM teachers that are now in the operation budget. So they're not new to us, but they're new in the operation budget.
Yeah, at least one was from ARP.
All right. Can I just go with my questions, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
All right. Well, since you kind of mentioned the building was tight, I'm wondering if there's anything in the budget to deal with the kind of overcrowding issue, as it doesn't seem like there's a, it doesn't seem like things are going to lighten up anytime soon, correct?
The number of zeros that would have to be on that ticket would be large, because we would need an expansion of our classrooms.
All right, but there's been no thought of, and I'm just throwing this out there, but having students at other location, like using Fitch for some things or something like that.
I think there have been lots of creative discussions, trying to think outside the box of how to satisfy the needs of our student population and our teachers. But nothing definitive has come across that said, we've said, yeah, that's really a workable solution.
All right.
So we're trying to,
To answer your first question, so there are no funds in the current budget to address that.
All right.
We are working on a scheduling project, and this time, having someone else schedule for us, we're actually shifting to having that training ourselves. So our counselors and administrators are getting kind of a revitalized training, and so we're very hopeful. We're setting up the parameters so that we can fill those classes to that maximum goal that the board has, which is the 20 to 24. And we're hoping that by balancing those classes bigger, that it'll really alleviate some of the classroom size, but not all of it.
I would agree. I think that actually doing it in-house this time around with the experts really knowing what the issues are with some of those sticking points,
Right.
we can make it better than it is this year, and I truly believe that, so.
All right, I'm almost done. After-school programs, so I know you remember from Cutler, and I do too, we had 2 soccer teams for boys soccer. I don't know how many girls soccer, because my daughter didn't play soccer then, but now we have 1 for essentially 2 schools, so twice as many kids, half as much soccer. I think the same thing is true for girls soccer. Drama that my daughter's in, I believe that 90 kids tried out. I don't think nearly that many got accepted. So to me, and I'm just using these as examples because I know about them, and I'm assuming there's lots of other after-school programs as well. Is there anything in the budget to address that? I mean, my own personal view is that if a kid wants to play soccer, he shouldn't not be allowed to play in middle school anyway because of ability. I mean, we had a 6th grade team and then like a JV and a varsity
Mr. Brown carried an awful lot of kids. And I don't know that we technically had 2 teams, but he had 2 squads out there, and you're right, he carried more than I can believe that he was able to do, but it was a great opportunity for a lot of kids, so your point's well taken.
So is there anything in the budget to change any of that as from how it exists now to kind of increase availability to the kids that want to do it that may not be as talented?
So we do have a pretty good intramural program, which is not interscholastic, but there are opportunities for things like flag football, and Mr. Romano will talk more about it, but basketball. I don't know that we have soccer per se with regard to intramurals due to some of the equipment that would be needed. But there's nothing additional in this year's budget over last year's to address adding more.
All right. And then last one is, has there been any difference in the amount of classroom teachers since, say, the first year you opened versus now? So if we were to add up all the science, English, math teachers, is the staff about the same size? And I'm just bringing this up because I've heard that, talk that sometimes when teachers leave, we don't refill the positions for financial reasons, and I'm just wondering if that's happening in your school.
No, if anything, I think we went up 0.5 FTEs in STEM 2 years ago, because we used to share a STEM teacher with Fitch High School, and that went to 1.0. And I don't know if that was due to ARPS or not, but we haven't had any positions due to retirement or people moving on that have not been refilled.
All right.
And the only reason, and we have taken FTEs, especially out of the secondary level, multiple times in the past couple years, but that's only knowing that the schedule's going to work and that we can maintain that class size of 20 to 24.
Right.
So,
Okay, I'll recognize Ian next.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Mr. Bass. We were issued one of those synopsis sheets that you referred to on the 9th for our meeting, and then there's another version issued for this meeting. And I'm just curious to know, I was just kind of running down the list, comparing the two sheets, and wondering what changed between the two versions. And maybe that's a question for the superintendent or the financial director.
no, actually, our principals really did a deep dive with that and just noticed some of the FTEs were off. I think you saw, you made some minor adjustments on that.
In the way that some of the positions were classified, I sat down with Lori Lapine and Dave earlier this week after reviewing that sheet. It was last week. Today's Monday, sorry. And, for example, I think that there were some FTEs that were listed in science, which were really supposed to more accurately represented as STEM. There were a couple of small adjustments. For example, I believe that Spanish was listed at 3.5 FTEs, French was at 1.5, when in reality, we actually have 4 FTEs Spanish and 1 FTE in French. I think there was an adjustment to acknowledge that it's not, the athletic director was listed as 0.5 as well as the athletic trainer 0.5, and it's been adjusted, so it's 0.3 and then 0.7 at the high school.
Okay. I noticed also now this, I think you might have spoke to this with the MAC situation, but I see instructional improvement services. In the initial draft of this page, it was listed for $2,500, and now in the current version of this page, it's listed for $13,970.
Yes.
What are instructional improvement services?
Good eye. So instructional improvement services are professional development. And in the initial outlay, in that initial version that you saw, it was, all that money was listed under travel for conferences. And when I looked at it, I said, well, that was not what I intended to have portrayed in my draft budget. So I talked to Dave, and we redistributed the money that was listed in travel for conferences, and said that really the bulk of that money, the 2/3 of that money really is for professional development, and the remainder for travel.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, yeah, and I see the adjustments in the FTEs. What sort of travel are we talking about with the conferences? Where are these conferences located?
It depends on which conference it is. We're talking NYP conferences typically. They're held in Boston, across the United States, but typically we stay East Coast because of the proximity and the cost involved, trying to keep the cost down. But Boston, Washington, Tampa, St. Pete, Miami. Are there any others you can think of, Susan?
There's some in Canada, but I don't
And
think on.
Yeah.
these,
Oh, wow.
are
But
these
they're
all
also-
associated with the NYP program?
Not all.
Or are there,
No, there could be other items. For example, the teacher who wants to go to the National Arts Conference. I know we sent one of our teachers last year. We were able to fund some of that. Other national conferences, but I would say that the large portion that I'm looking at for next year would be NYP, particularly since this year we have not pursued any.
I'd also say we have a lot of state conferences in literacy, math. Atomic is going to be right in New Haven.
right.
CCLM, Connecticut Council of Leaders of Mathematics, is also in New Haven. So a lot of times they'll be local, but teachers, would also get paid, for their automobile, for the mileage.
travel,
So if they travel.
Understood. Is there any way that we could get a breakout of the instructional improvement services line as far as like how that 13,970 gets parceled out?
Would you
So, like,
please
what
put that in your
programs?
FAQ? Because I'm pulling all those numbers together for you. So if you add that
Sure.
and send that to Erica and I, that's what I had said at the beginning. That's the best way for me to keep track of all of that, so I don't lose anything.
All right, will do, thank you. That's about it for me for now, thanks. Oh, I guess, one more thing, I was looking at the other pages for this packet, and it's kind of combined, middle school and high school. I guess this is a question for the superintendent or the financial director. The more itemized pages, with the function codes on it, are they specific to, well, they show both middle school and high school together.
That's right. That's right, they're the totality. A function shows you the totality, for instance, of an art department, where you're seeing the cost at each of the building. That's the total that's really used for accounting purposes, that you're looking at right now. So that's combined.
Okay.
That's the purpose of a function code.
Understood. Yeah, all right, well, I'll follow up on that in the frequently asked questions document. But I would be curious to know, like, site-specific breakdowns, to correlate with the function codes as well, sort of a cross-reference to see, which, how much of the lump sum that's in the combined budget is allotted towards the middle school programs and where, and then the high school programs and which ones. For Mr. Bass, just curious, and this might be for Mr. Romano as well. Just curious to know about the athletics in the middle school. Are we looking at trying to develop feeder programs for the high school in, say, like fencing or marching band or, like track and field? Or how's that connectivity between the high school and the middle school work for trying to maintain enrollment in those programs, carrying from middle school to high school?
If it's okay, I'm going to let Mr. Romano address that when it comes to his portion of the presentation, if that's okay.
You might not see him, but he's sitting on the sidelines, but he'll be happy to answer that question, because he's going to come up after the high school does. So he really is overseeing the facilities and the programs in 6 through 12, so he is the right person to ask that question of. So I'll make sure
All right.
that he does that.
All right, I'll hold that question until then. Thank you. I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Next, I'm going to recognize Rob.
Hi, I want to thank you for your presentation. Giving the history of it was pretty helpful. That's going to pose my question. You say that you've been working on the MYP for a while. What's the biggest functional holdup for that, and is there anything budgetary that would help?
I'm sorry, I missed that. What's the biggest what for that? I'm sorry, I missed that word.
What's the biggest functional problem? Like, what is the actual, you think, biggest holdup that is going on inside the school or inside your programs that's making that not come to fruition yet?
We actually were certified, if you will, as a fully charged MYP program recognized by IB. We passed their certification. Certification is not the right word, but they came out and did a full analysis of the work that we've done, and we've reached that first threshold, but there's still work to be done they gave us a list of things that we should continue to work on and improve. But I would say that we're pretty proud of the fact that we did achieve that level at this time.
That's a great question. Being an international baccalaureate global district where we have MYP 6 through 10, we have careers program and diploma program at the high school, you're really held to these very high standards. It's almost like having a NEASC visit on a regular basis, or NIAC that visit for preschool. So you really have goals and objectives that you're working on in between the visits, and you get a report. And so I would really shout out to our staff, because it was those middle school teachers and the coordinators who really worked so hard to get those plans developed, you know, and really, when we go in classrooms, we see them happening. That's the biggest ticket, is that you're seeing it come to fruition and being implemented. But it's a very good question. Thank you for asking.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Dean?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I had the same questions that Ian had, and they've been answered. So if I understand it, the reason why what I first did, so you know, is add all the numbers at the secondary level. And I found altogether a 3.5 FTE difference, greater in the present materials as opposed to the earlier materials. But that doesn't show up in the middle school. When you compare, there's really a 0.05 FTE difference. I figured, okay, so what you said was, the way we described it first, we basically sort of reallocated, and it's an internal thing. So it works out to just about the same FTE when you add everything together. But the figure for total salaries, and maybe the arithmetic's wrong, I'm sorry, but maybe the arithmetic's wrong, there's a $225,000 difference. So I don't know what that means, and I don't know who can answer that. In other words, before, my takeaway from Ian's question and your answer was that the staffing profile was about the same, it was simply described differently.
Agree.
Okay? But the dollar difference, again, is $225,000 different. That's, I don't know, depending how you want to slice it, 3 positions. So so it looks like this one's got $225,000 more in it than the last one.
Yeah, I can give you I don't know off the top of my head, but I can certainly give you a reconciliation for it.
Yeah, okay.
No question.
All right, thanks. Oh, one more thing, Mr. Chair. This subject has come up in a number of different ways. The size of the middle school, the capacity of the middle school. And I think in the absence of an official statement of some sort, this is not to say that everything is hunky-dory and the school is perfectly sized. This happens sometimes with capital projects like this. But I'm wondering if an official, hey, this is why, because in the absence of that,
I
people
can't
come
hear
up.
what Dean's saying.
I'm as close to the mic as I could be. What I was saying was, in the absence of some sort of an official statement from the district regarding why the middle school is sized the way that it is, because apparently there are reasons for it, having to do with state funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. People invent their own reasons. And when they invent their own reasons, they're usually not very positive reasons. And they basically cast aspersions on a school district, which people are wont to do. And in an era when we need as much credibility as possible, when we're looking for more money, I think it would behoove us to tell the public, yes, we know the school may be smaller than it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this is why. Not to say, again, everything's fine, but this is why. It wasn't because somebody fell asleep at the switch. That's my 2 cents.
Can I just make a quick comment on that?
Sure.
Is it possible just to have this recorded that we do have an issue with the school too small, so being too small? And because I think in a long term, it's something that should be resolved, so I think it needs to be kept track of somewhere.
Any other questions for Mr. Bass?
I have a question for Mr. Bass. I'm sorry, if I might. Regarding the population, is the school small because we have a demographic glut of some sort? Because I see, for example, that the 6th grade is a class size plus, smaller than the 8th grade.
Right.
Are we falling back to a new normal? Or is the school demographically, as far as you folks can tell, is the school going to be a little tight for the foreseeable future?
I would say for the foreseeable future, it would be tight.
Okay. Thank you.
Our newcomer kindergartners we have now are 365. So if that's any indication, now sub-school brings in a lot of youngsters and they come and go. But, every now and again, we just get one of those pop-up classes that seem to have a lot more students in them, and sometimes a little less, right?
It's true.
So,
This would be a time when I wish Sam were here, but at the time that the middle school was approved, my understanding was that was the square footage approved by the state
Right.
based on the PSIS of that October 1st. And again, this is all subject to verification. I was told that they would not entertain the idea that more students would come back from other magnet schools and would not allow a larger square footage school to be built than was currently in the two schools at the time. That was my understanding. Maybe we can get some real definitive word from someone on the Permanent School Building Committee that could weigh in on that.
and this was the authorization of the state. They really wanted to fill 100% of the space, utilize 100% of the space, 100% of the time, and we all knew that that was not a good idea. It happened in Ledyard, it happened across the state with the person who was in charge at that time. So, I think we could certainly come up with a statement. I agree with you, Dean. We really need to, but we need to have it verified. So nobody really gets blamed, but this
Right.
was the way it was at that time.
Oh, I can blame.
Well, more than
And
just an acceptance that they're, of why it happened. I mean, it is what it is. The building is built.
Right.
And, explaining to the town what's going on and maybe how we might solve this problem, rather than just saying, we have a big problem that's taxing to the staff, that's taxing to the students. We have to acknowledge the problem and let the taxpayers know what's going on.
Right. Ian?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of echo the sentiments of Dean and Adrian there and yourself. I think definitely we need to kind of get straight on exactly how it came to be, where we are, and explore possible avenues moving forward so that the public does understand that we understand the situation and we can explain it fully. As far as assigning blame, we can leave that up to whatever the facts lead us. But I also would like to know definitively how we got to be in this place and what we can do to relieve future stresses. Thank you.
And again, Sam Kilpatrick can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we can start with the Permanent School Building Committee. They shepherded the program, and they would have the institutional knowledge of what happened, and maybe they can make some suggestions on how we can go forward.
He is online. He said he's available.
Did you want to say something, or maybe you stepped away?
If there's somebody speaking, it's not picking up on the microphone.
All right, are there any other questions for Mr. Bass? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Matt Brown.
Yes.
Okay.
Coming up, Principal Brown, Fitch High School.
Thank you.
If you're going to be having a conversation at some point, if you're having a sidebar, obviously turn it off or what have you, but I know it's not part of our normal occupation here.
All right, so when I was hired, I was super excited, and then I started realizing the things that I had to do now in this role that I didn't have to do before, and this is one of the ones I kind of thought, what did I just do? So
What did I sign up for?
so this is the first go-around of it, so I was so excited to play around with these numbers. But to give you a little overview of things going on at Fitch High School, first thing, we are also the culminating part of MYP. So they complete grades 6 through 8, obviously at the middle school, and then they continue on grades 9 through 10 at Fitch High School. And in 10th grade, they finish the course with a culminating project called the Personal Project, which they'll be presenting. Our 10th graders this year will be presenting those in mid-February, or they're due in mid-February. From there, grades 11 and 12, they have different pathways to choose. Some of our students choose the path of IB diploma program, others choose AP classes, a combination of both. We offer a lot of ECE classes, which are dual enrollment classes through UConn and other universities. And we also offer just college prep level classes that a lot of our students will take. So they have a lot of options, and a lot of our students will kind of take an a la carte of all the different types of classes that we have to offer. We also offer career pathways. So they can choose, if they're not opting to go straight to college, they can go through programs that'll prepare them for things like manufacturing through our Youth Manufacturing Pipeline Initiative. We have some that are in the nursing program. We have a new program for EMT, which has gotten a lot of popularity, and we actually it's a course that a lot of students want to take, so we have to actually go through an application process for it. But so those are a lot of the different possibilities that our students have for choice as they go through our school. And I just want to highlight some of our goals throughout this year and really the past year. First thing is that we've strived as an admin team and as a whole school to bring back Falcon Pride. I've talked to you guys a little bit about that. And I think we are doing a good job of that, thanks to everybody, a lot of people in this room and our students and teachers. Just Friday night, we had a full gym for probably the first time. I haven't seen that gym with, I'd say we had about 1,000 people in the audience, and it felt like it was back in the early 2000s for that basketball game. Unfortunately, we got beat, but it was still a great atmosphere, and it was fun to see the kids back to how they should remember high school. We are striving ourselves in making sure that we keep on going with Spirit Weeks, with activities, continuing on with Dr. Piazza's idea of the morning music is still going strong. So things that are just helping to bring it some good energy into our school. Meeting with some of our school leaders and designing dances and other activities that they really want to get involved with. And then another huge push this year is our goal to get kids involved in as many activities and clubs as possible. So Dan Couture has led a grant where we are trying to get new clubs and activities at our school. And really, our goal is every kid has at least one thing. We can find a club or an activity that they would want to belong to and they would join. Because it is our big belief that if we can get them into something and want to come to school for that one reason, then they'll start to be proud of their school and want to do their very best to represent Fitch the best way they can. The next big goal we've had is to live our vision of the graduate, which is RISE. Resilient individual, building an innovative thinker, socially aware citizens, and engaged communicators. So everything that we do when we're talking to our students, when we're developing lessons, when we develop our SEL activities during our CTL block, our advisory block, is to infuse those themes. So we're also infusing those into the awards programs that we're having. So right now we're even deciding how, when we're building our underclassmen awards and our senior awards, how we can incorporate RISE and those attributes to those awards. Another big goal is ensuring that we have the support systems in place for our students. So we want them to persevere in the most rigorous courses, but we want to make sure that we have support systems for them. One thing that I'm very proud that really Mark Romano's responsible for, and he'll talk a little bit more, is his expectations with his athletes to attend Falcon Academy if they have a D or an F, and that's been a great way to get those students the support that they need. We utilize restorative practices in our approach with our students to build that relationship with our kids so that they know that we want the very best for them and we'll find ways to support them. And we've divided our our students into really 3 groups. So each assistant principal is teamed with 2 counselors, and they have a third of our population, and they have regular meetings with their counselors to go over the counselors' caseloads and talk about the kids who's struggling, what supports can we provide them. Can we get them a tutor during CTL? Can we get them, can we call home and talk to mom and dad about getting them involved with Falcon Academy? Can we get them in we have different blocks. We have a task, which is the academic success class, where it's a support class, kind of structured like a resource for special education, but not as supportive. We also have math intervention, reading intervention, all those interventions that we might be able to incorporate into their schedules. But we have a lot of different ways that we're trying to support them. We're also, right now, our assistant principals are holding a lot of attendance meetings to make sure that they're aware that we're now tracking attendance. The message is that we're past COVID, and now we're expecting them to be there. And if they're not, we're going to be holding them accountable, and we're going to set goals for them to make sure that they're there on time. I've been just beginning my senior in danger meetings for any senior that we're concerned about that might not be on track to graduate, to make sure that we have a plan for them the rest of the way through. And really, again, just the support plans for any kids that are struggling at our school. Another big theme is we want to make sure we ensure consistency and accountability for all students and all staff. So our big push, and Adam, Carmita, and Amy have done a great job of holding our students accountable, giving them love, but holding them accountable when they make mistakes, making sure that they learn from the mistakes, they can recover from the mistakes, but that they're accountable for their mistakes. So that's something that we've really strived to make sure is part of our climate. And then with teachers, utilizing the mini walkthroughs as administration, it's been very difficult, but our goal is to get into each classroom 8 to 10 times, to have a real face-to-face conversation with our teachers about what we saw, instead of just a write-up, which we used to just do like a write-up and then move forward. And I think that process, we're only going to grow from it, and we're going to get better at it. I talked a little bit about our efforts. A big goal is exposing our students to the many pathways that we have to offer, and showing those pathways as early and often as possible. So we've utilized an expo in late November, right before Thanksgiving, where we invited middle school students into our school, and our students were the leaders to show them all the great clubs, activities, courses we have to offer. They were the tour guides. And they sold Fitch High School very well, I thought. We also then visited the middle school to talk about our programs and make sure that we got everybody that if they weren't able to attend our school, then we were going to go talk to them. We did that in November. And then on Friday of this week, they're actually coming back to Fitch High School for some tours of our building and to get into actual classrooms to see the actual courses that we're offering and to find their passion, so that when they choose classes, which is actually coming up on Monday and Tuesday of next week, they'll be choosing classes. Our counselors are going to be going down to the middle school and helping them with those classes, but they'll have ideas fresh in their mind of what they want to take when they come to Fitch High School. So the biggest goal there is, I think what we've noticed and what we've heard from our students is junior and senior year, they realize all that we have to offer, but they didn't realize how to get there. So we have to make sure 8th grade, 7th grade, 9th grade, they know what they need to take in order to get to where they want to be. And then also, when they are freshmen and sophomores, visiting CTLs to keep on reminding them of the things that they can take and the paths that they can choose. So, and then the last one, which has been a huge initiative, has been just, our major goal is to increase the number of students that take higher level courses, whether that be AP, IB, or ECE courses, and to really build those programs. I think one thing I'm very proud of is we have a lot of teachers that have applied this year for ECE or dual enrollment courses that they want to teach our kids, or give our kids as possibilities. That there's, I'd say, about 4 new math teachers that have applied. We have environmental science, which is now going to be an ECE course offering. Nursing is going to be in that field. ASL, American Sign Language, is another one. I'm just excited that we have all those new things to offer. And really, that's a credit to our staff that's willing to go out and do the extra things to get the credential so that they can call their course, connect it to those programs. And then the last thing, with clubs and activities, I had mentioned before, actually, I talked about that before. With a lot of the new clubs and activities, it's great to see our newspaper revamped and starting to look better than it ever did, but something that was probably gone for close, to, at least since COVID. And Rick Peck has done a great job with that. Our debate kids are taking great passion in the events that they're going to. Like I said before, I really think we have something to offer every kid. Dungeons and Dragons is a club that is going strong and that everybody is a big fan of. My brother loved it when I was growing up, and I just never understood it, but he used to make me play. So some of it I remember, but really that's really the goals. Do you guys anything that? Yeah. And then just really before, the budget process for me this year was first really looking at, we had a nice spreadsheet showing really the last 3 years of what was the budget that we had, what was the actual spending that we had, and that's really what helped kind of determine where the money should go and what should be budgeted in each area, and then thinking about things like increases in travel costs and so forth were the areas that obviously that we were going to have to add a little bit and take away from some of the other areas where the spending wasn't as great. So we did that first, and then after that was developed, we had a sheet for each of the subject areas. With that, I reviewed it with each of the department heads to make sure that they were in agreement of that's where the budget should be at for each of those, and if we had to make adjustments in subject-specific budgets, that's when we made those decisions. And then I shared it with Dave and Susan, and we went over and reviewed and reviewed and reviewed, and now we're here. So that's that. Well,
And being the math major, you love that kind of work.
I like numbers.
Yeah, I've got a few. And
Okay.
first I want to start by saying I am really happy to be sitting across the table from you. I've known you for a couple of years, and your love for our district is just, it just spills out of you. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that. Now for the questions. One of the things, going back 2 years, so first I'm going to ask, hearing impaired 1.5 FTEs, is that the ASL teachers?
Yeah, so each of the ASL teachers, they have a half teaching load, and then they have their caseload working with students in our high school and throughout the district. So that's actually, yeah, so half the time they're teaching, and the other half they're servicing kids that need the support.
So there's 2 full FTEs in the whole district, so there are other children in the middle school and high school that also require services in elementary and middle school, so.
Well, I'm more specifically referring to the ASL class. And so a little less than 2 years ago, we did a world language study where all of the kids in the district and all the parents filled it out. And I think the most telling thing from that study, at least the most surprising thing to me, was how many students and parents wanted their kids to take ASL. So it was about an average of 70% of parents wanted their kid to take ASL, and I think it was, 50% of students wanted to take ASL. And at that point, 3.7% of our kids were in ASL. So I'm wondering if there's any plan to try to meet the demand of our students and their parents in offering more courses in ASL.
I mean, I would love for that. That has been a challenge. We do have a lot, that's one of our most popular choices when they're choosing which world language they're going to take or which courses. Those classes are heavily populated, definitely closer to the 25 in each ASL. So it's definitely something that should be considered. It's also something I think a lot of the reason we have the popularity we have is because of the teachers we have as well. They are amazing, and I think if we could find more teachers like that that teach ASL, then we definitely should find a way to get them into this district. So they are hard to find. We were extremely lucky to find both Christy and Rebecca. But that would be, I think, the biggest challenge is finding ASL teachers.
All right. Second was substitute teachers. It seemed like across the board in the high school and the middle school, that line item had been dropped down to $2,500 from, $10,000, $15,000. I think it varied. How is that? Are teachers going to stop getting sick?
I don't think so.
So how does that kind of part?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that actual lineup. I didn't go look at the subs when I was doing this budget. That was,
Adrian, so I have a schedule I can send to you that shows you all the subs by function code. And right now, I think we're up, I don't know the exact number, but I think we're up 14% in cost year over year.
That's right.
I know, but the
got it in
budget
front of
for
me.
next year is
Well, it's just in-
substantially down.
No, it's just in the, if you look at the,
Here's the,
those are just the building sub, is that what?
it's all the building subs.
So we have 7 building subs that come every day to Fitch High
So
School.
there's not a category, there's not like a code per se for subs. So I think historically, there was a formula per se. I tried to replicate that, but I couldn't. So the building subs, you would see a big number in elementary, and then you'd see another big number for Fitch and the middle school. It's in a different code, though. It's just sort of a general code that I don't have a way to sort of allocate back out by function.
All right, so, well, I'll just go to world language,
Yep.
6 to 12, substitute teachers. The 23 actual was 17,378.
Yep.
The 24 budget is 32,366.
Yep.
And the 25 budget is $3,500.
That's correct. That's correct. It's exactly what I just said. So there was something in the past was developed to try to allocate a sub. Now we have more formalized building subs,
All right,
so they're in a different code. And I have a schedule I can send to you. I've already looked at that myself.
all right. And then the other thing, I was hoping to get a class schedule for the board for the high school and the middle school, so we know all of the classes that we offer and how many students are enrolled in each class. Is that something?
it's on its way. It's in frequently asked questions. There's a link. You're going to get it Friday.
All right. All right, and do we have many classes with, like, not many students in them, like fewer than 10?
We do, yes, I mean, we do have some. Definitely in special ed, those are usually under 10. And then,
by design.
and a lot of, some of our intervention classes, we try to keep those 8 to 10, because they're support classes, the response to intervention, that's the ratio that you should have according to, the expectations. We do have some classes, even, some IB classes, actually everywhere. We have some classes where they are under 10 still. And a lot of times it's really, one thing that can happen is it's just structurally, we had sometimes there were 25 that were choosing a class, and then when we opted to run 2 sections, then it just worked out that the schedule, 9 were in one and then 16 are in the other. So sometimes it's hard to make that decision as to, do we run 2 sections or do we just run 1 and then not allow everybody to take the course? Or in the IB situation that I was explaining, sometimes it's a second course that they're taking. So we have to get better at, when we're choosing what courses we're going to offer, if we're at 8 as juniors, and then we have some kids that, if the enrollment number is only at 8 that selected that course, maybe we can't run that course, because what happens is then their senior year, we have to offer it again because it's a 2-year course, and then some kids might not opt to take it for that second year. So things like that can happen that, we're learning. I'm new to the scheduling. Last year was the first time really I built or worked with Carmita to build our schedule. And those are some of the things that we're seeing now. I think that those are areas we got to watch out for. But yeah, it's definitely that we definitely have some courses where that is the case.
I would say in the process, both schools and all administrators have really been very selective about what goes into the program guide for kids. So really looking at past history, what's run well, what hasn't. So we've looked at a lot of data to see that, so really being careful as we roll it out in the beginning. I know there were a lot of things cut off of Groton Middle School that used to be, that we really fine-tuned because we knew there were other courses that were much more popular that would run better.
The other thing I want to caution, like, one thing we pride ourselves in, we do offer a lot of choice for our students. We have a lot of different courses that we put in our program of studies, but you got to be careful when you offer so many choices, then you're starting to compete with each other and what courses students have to take and so forth. So that's what we have to keep in mind when we're going to have to make hard decisions as to, we can't run this certain course this year because it's going to be less than 10 in that area. They're going to have to choose the other course that we are able to run. Those are the types of decisions we're going to have to make.
I'm also so proud of the work that our teachers are doing to make sure that they have that ECE or AP along with IB. I think that's going to also boost the numbers that a child could go in and do the diploma program or get an IB course. But at the same time, they've correlated the, assignments so that they could really walk away with an AP score of 3, 4, or 5, so they get credit through that. Or it might be aligned with ECE as well, so they could get UConn credit, let's say. So I'm really pleased that that's really our boots on the ground. That's our teachers who've done that extra legwork to ensure that it can be kind of multifaceted, and kids can get a lot from that. And I'm hoping that will encourage them too, along with the support you're giving.
No, the last thing I wanted to talk, we're not there yet, but when you guys look at the data, you're going to see that each year, we're going in the right direction. It's not all going to be like that, where we just jump from, low course sizes and we're up to 25. There's going to be time when we have to get that growth. And I feel like I'm proud of the jump we've already made, to be quite honest with you.
Any other questions for Mr. Brown?
I just have one. Can you just take 30 seconds? What's morning music?
What's that?
What is morning music?
Morning music is, we have, Phil actually started it. He, I don't know, I guess you did it at one of your other districts?
It's just a way to welcome the kids into the... The music is played in the morning as the kids are walking in.
Is there a particular kind of music?
Sometimes there's themes, connected to holidays or something that's going on within the school.
Snow Day, we played Snow by Red Hot Chili Peppers.
When I announced
We like
you
to-
were principal, we played Mr. Brown.
Mr. Brown, yeah.
Kids are like, where is this?
What is this song? The students often hate the music. I've gotten a lot, you're the one who plays the music. I've gotten a lot of that. We have but we do have a song request form that can be a survey that's filled out where you can request a song for someone and you can dedicate it to a certain class and so forth. So we'll play those.
It's another way to educate the students. And it's also reciprocal. I think it was always a way for us to keep up with the newer music that is coming out as well. So it was a nice relationship builder with the kids.
And with February coming up, we have a song list for Black History Month with different historical songs that we'll be playing throughout the month of February as well. So we're incorporating those types of, during the holidays, we played different cultural songs that represented different cultures for different holidays as well. So we've had a lot of fun with it. So it's a nice new tradition that I think we'll see continue for some time.
Well, it's not so new. I'm so pleased to hear that you did that, because when I was principal at Fitch Middle, I played classical music all day long,
Nice.
and it was a big success. So I'm so glad to hear that. It really made my month. Thank you.
Jen?
Hi, not necessarily a question, but a statement to both principals who spoke. I was able to visit both facilities or schools in December, and you can feel that energy in both locations, and I just wanted to commend both of you for a job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Any other questions for Matt Brown?
I have a few.
Sure, go ahead, Ian.
All right, Mr. Brown, first and foremost, I'd like to echo the sentiments from Adrian Johnson as far as I'm very glad to see you in the position.
Thank you.
And enjoyed our interactions in the past as parent to assistant principal, and now I look forward to our interactions as in this format.
Thank you, thank you.
In regards to just looking at the general overview, I noticed there's a lot of, there's about $32,000 for travel to conferences and $32,500 for transportation on field trips. Just looking at the travel to conferences, and looking at the section of the budget that's broken out further, it looks like a lot of that has to do with the IB program training.
Yeah, a lot
that
of it
correct?
does. I would say, first and foremost, like, the question came up about MYP before and training for MYP. And one thing there, we did a great job kicking off training for IB. I'm just going to start there with MYP. We did a great job kicking that training off. So any teacher that we had back in 2016, 17, when we did that initial training, they're trained, which is great. But we're now in 2024, so we have a lot of staff now that are new to us that haven't had the initial training of what MYP is. So, you know, although we got the roots in the ground really, really good at first, we have to make sure that we keep sending teachers, not only brand-new teachers, but teachers that have already been trained to take second-level training and so forth. So with COVID and even this past year, we haven't sent anyone out for training for MYP, so that's definitely an area that I would like to make sure we get some teachers out for that training. Like I said before, not just the IB, but with all the teachers that want to step up and take some of teach some of our higher level courses, that also comes with getting them the training that they need. So we have to account for that. So looking at that, that's really, you know, one of the big reasons why that number is so high is there, you know, with IB, the diploma program, with the career-related program, with MYP, with all our ECE, with our AP courses and so forth. All of those require specific training that our teachers will have to take. And one thing, as I said before, I'm proud of how many teachers are going to get the training. Because one thing it's doing is, and when we talk to kids, you ask them, why did you take that AP course, or why are you going to take that IB course? And a lot of them said was because Mr. Striplin was teaching it, or Mr. Giovanazzo was teaching it, and just their ninth grade teacher was teaching it. And now if we can get them trained to teach some of the higher level courses, that's going to help it grow a lot more. Because if we just have these specialized teachers that just teach IB, AP, then they're not gonna highlight their expert teaching to our younger grades. So I think that's the reason why we do have to continue to make that push to get a lot of training out there.
I think you're muted, Ian. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yep, thank you. Well, thank you for the answer on that. And just to follow up along that line of thinking, looking into the future, do we see, are we trying to try to have some of this training kept in-house?
I would love, yeah, as much as possible. Sorry.
Point?
Yeah,
I'm just thinking, is there going to be a point where you know, we have so many teachers trained that this cost of travel will go down some?
I think so.
Or is this going to be?
I think 100%, like, was it last year or 2 years ago, we had the counselors trained and we had the trainer come in. And I think we're realizing that's a cost-effective way to get more people trained in a cheaper approach. so I think that that is a great point, and it's something that this is my first year really putting eyes in this role, so it's something that I will, we'll keep track of and make sure that, that we are budgeting in the areas that we need to budget. And, when we're looking at the actual spent and what we budgeted, we'll get more accurate as we get through this process a little bit more.
All right, appreciate it. And I'm seeing a large jump in the cost for pupil tests, going from
Yep.
a 5,000 figure to a 20,000. Could you explain what's happening there?
Well, one thing is we are paying for our students' tests, so we're, we are very proud that our numbers are increasing in AP and IB and especially the AP courses, but at the same time, with every increase is another test, and they can get very, if we're as a district, which I 100% hope we continue to do, but if we're going to be paying for these tests, then that's going to be a pretty heavy cost if we're going to continue that, which I think with the work of equal opportunity schools, that's one thing that Jessica Lamb stressed to us is that, when you're looking at the barriers as to what's going to limit students from taking the test, even if we pay for a certain population, they're less likely to take advantage of that as opposed to if we're paying for it for everyone. So I think just making sure that we even the playing field by taking that cost is important.
And just a little history, Ian. When I first got here, we did have AP tests on the budget, and then there was a time when I think we took it off, and we did see a decline in number of students who were taking the test at the same time. We connected with the National Math Science Initiative. That was one organization, and then Equal Opportunity Schools. And actually, with the National Math Science Institute, they actually pay for some of the tests. So they pay for the math, science, and I think some of the core ELA. I'm not sure, but they do take on some of that cost. So we thought we had to really then fill in the gap for the other tests that were taken in AP. So that's when we decided to add AP tests to the list, and IB we've always paid for. And there was a few board members that said, well, if you pay for IB, you really should be paying for AP as well. So a little history background on that, and I think this year you were so pleased with not only the number of students who are in the classes, but the number who signed up. I think there were only 12 kids who didn't want to take the test, but everybody else took the test. They didn't all get 5s, but they were sitting in the seat taking the test.
And I also, it's not just, I don't want it to sound like we're just focusing on the higher level, like the AP and the IB. We also provide a fall and a spring SAT test for all of our 9th, 10th, and 11th graders. We are assessing in world language every year to track progress there as well. So and that's all kids, not just, the AP, IB, but again, that's all gonna, that all comes at a cost, so. But I think it's.
And that would also include ASVAB testing? Is that?
Yes, I believe so.
Something that's covered?
Yep,
Yes?
I think so.
yeah.
I'll make sure.
We'll confirm that, but we believe so.
Okay, thank you. Now, with these tests for the IB and APs, with the students that carry IEPs and 504s, how much flexibility do the instructors have for providing accommodations for these tests?
I mean, I believe they still have to follow whatever accommodations are in the IEP. So, yeah, I mean, they still have the opportunity to take the test with whatever accommodations that they have written.
Okay, thank you. And as far as the career counselor on site there, are we looking at trying to increase that position to a full-time position or adding more career counselors?
At this time, I don't think we are. I know Jen Allenek does an amazing job, and she probably does that job. She's only there half-time, but I'd say she puts in she's a tremendous asset to our school. And she does an amazing job, but I don't think at this time we're looking to increase that to a full FTE. I think 6.5 does, you know, when you look at all the local schools, which was actually just shared with me, I think we're right on point to where we should be with the number of counselors that we have for the size of our school.
We also
All right,
have
so with that-
another counselor who's at the high school now, and she's actually a department chair of it, and she supports the career pathways for IB. And so, and also, she came from a Congressman Courtney grant to support all of our career pathways. So she is a tremendous resource in that she's finding internships and externships and programs, and so she's working alongside of Jen. So we do have that added support. We've had it for a couple years. I'd like to see that in the future. So know that we're keeping our eye on that, Ian, because we do think it's really important.
I appreciate that. Now, do all those positions fall underneath guidance, the 7.6 figure?
Yes.
Or where, yes? Okay.
Yeah, that's included in there.
Appreciate it.
I'll get back for sure. I just want to find out where that extra position is for the career pathways, so I'll find out.
All right, thank you for that. And as far as, well, we have Mr. Romano coming up later, so that's actually a question for him. And I see instructional services and instructional improvement services here as well for about 10,000 each.
I can talk to, so the instructional services, a big part of that is we have a leadership conference that we send at the Hobie, which is is it Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Conference, which that usually costs us around $4,000 just for that, and that goes in, that's been funded through that area. Also, things like working with the Yellow Farmhouse is something that our health teachers work with, where they not only do they come to the school and do instructional activities with our kids on healthy lifestyles and so forth. The Denison Nature Center comes and works with our biology teachers, where they actually come into the school, and that's all in that 10,000 right there. Like I said, the bulk of it really is the leadership conference, and then also if there's sometimes there are some courses that our kids might take that a virtual class that we don't offer through Apex. And those ones fell in that area as well.
All right, thank you. And where do we stand with ESL teachers? And where would they be, what function code would they be under?
What's that? The bilingual teacher is...
I'm sorry, I'm not, is there discussion happening right now?
Yeah.
I can't hear.
Dave's
I think
looking
it's
right-
listed as a bilingual teacher because we're a bilingual district.
It's 1220. 1220?
So again, Ian, one of the areas, Stephanie is our bilingual teacher, and she helps coordinate with a lot of our ESL, our tutors. And that's listed under bilingual for the 1.0. And then Dave's looking,
On the function code.
And he says it's 1220, I just don't have it in front of me here.
Yeah, it's other special.
Yeah, other
Okay.
special instruction, there it is. Yep.
All right, 1220?
Yep.
Other special? Got it. And looking forward, as far as the honors level courses for 11th and 12th grade, is there any movement towards looking at bringing those back?
I don't think there is, I mean, honestly, one thing we were looking at is potentially offering a standard level for IB English, for example. Really, to me, I'm a strong believer that in 11th and 12th grade, in most areas, your honors level class is your AP or your IB class. Otherwise, we would have way too much, like I said before, with, when you're offering so many levels of choices, then that's going to, that teacher, the class size ratio is going to continue to decrease, as opposed to when you have less choices, then, it'd be a better chance of bigger numbered classes where we can offer, class sizes that would be reasonable. So again, I think, really, I'm a believer that AP, IB for our 11th and 12th graders are our honors level track for those kids. Because we also, like for IB specifically, we offer standard level in a lot of subject areas, and we offer higher level. So you got two different levels within the IB program itself anyways.
All right. And, well, covering the test fees definitely would take the sting out of that, I suppose, so that there's no extra charge for taking the test. All right, and just one last thing, the school admin dues, I noticed was,
Yes.
well, I was kind of curious to know more about that.
Okay,
What is that all about?
So the Connecticut Association of Schools, CAS, they charge a due of $5,300 each year. That's an annual due that we had to pay. NEASC has an annual due of $4,500. College Board has an annual due. Being a part of the IB diploma program has an annual due close to $10,000. MYP, there's an annual due. And so when you add all those up, you get pretty darn close to that $34,000 pretty quickly.
All right. All right, well, I think that's all I got for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I saw Rob's
Someone's hand is
hand
up.
up.
Yes, mine was up.
Okay, go ahead, Rob.
All right. So my question is pretty straight. How many staff do you have that currently assist students in their planning for the future, whether it be going to college or finding a job?
I think the biggest there would be our guidance counselors, which we have 7.6 full-time employees there. Those are the biggest ones that would assist in that area.
Okay, so if we just take the 11th and 12th graders, it's about 500 students. You're looking at a caseload of about 71 students per member. Are they fully equipped to deal with that sort of caseload, or is there any other resources that they're using or being provided to help with that?
I mean, so it is difficult, especially with all the other challenges of a counselor, because it's not just being a college and career coordinator. They're responsible for a lot more in the school. However, we all chip in that area. For example, our CTL, our advisory course that we offer every day, and then once a week we do an advisory lesson. But a lot of those lessons will be incorporated around career exploration and college, really just getting information that way. So it's not that one-on-one attention, but it's to give that brief overview so that when they do meet with their counselors, they have a little more focus. But
okay, is there any? Is there any resources that the counselors are using? Are there any, handouts, or are they referring them to certain places to try and get more assistance if they need one-on-ones and that need can't be met?
yeah, I mean, we do. We have a Naviance program, which is a computer program that they can do a lot of the exploration, and that really connects them. It helps organize all their information, like their resume and how they collect their letters of recommendation from teachers and so forth. It's a one-place area for them, so that helps the counselors and the student with organization. I forget where else.
That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Okay, good, because I lost my train of thought.
Although DOD is using another program. What was the name of that program, Clint, that we were going to look into? It looks like it's a little more updated.
School. Not school.
School Link.
School links, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, we've
So we
had
do get some
meetings, but that's-
good information from our DOD partners.
All right, thank you, Rob. Any other questions for Mr. Brown? Dean?
Yes. This topic hasn't come up in a while, but I just noted And it seems like this topic has become definitely a stepchild. Latin teacher, 0.25, now 0.10. So what, in the name of myself and the name of Rita, who used to bring this up as well, what is going on with Latin, if anything?
So, I mean, right now, we're currently not offering Latin as one of the pathway choices. We do, from time to time, have students that will choose that, and then it would be an independent study. And we are lucky to have a social studies teacher that still has that Latin certification. So we have the opportunity to provide the academic support for a student that wanted to choose that path. But again, kind of, the theme of when we increase the number of choices, that's when we're getting ourselves caught into trouble of keeping the class sizes at a reasonable number.
Right.
And, although we did have a group that wanted to take Latin, that number every year was falling under 10. So we didn't think that it was appropriate to continue offering that as one of the world languages.
Do you think the interest in the class declines because the students have this idea that, well, the school's not offering it or won't be supporting it, and if I took it, I wouldn't be able to take it next year. If I took it this year, in other words, I'm wasting my time. If I took Latin, I'll get a year out of it, and that's it.
It's a fair question. I honestly, when that wasn't really a concern, our numbers were still low in that area. And I don't think, when a lot of those students were choosing that, I don't think that was one of the fears that I could be wrong, but I don't think that was one of the fears that they had.
Well, in my high school, Latin was taught by the department head, but his daughter took German with me. She did not take Latin.
So I just want to tell you, I
even
do
then.
have a meeting with my Learn Superintendent colleagues next Friday, and on the agenda, we're going to be talking about how we can have shared resources and maybe have some remote learning now that it's legal again, and that we can have some kind of a hybrid model where maybe I provide the Latin teacher or someone else does, and then we can maybe have a Latin class if it's a regional classroom, kind of, so to speak, in a hybrid model. So we're going to be discussing that. So I'll bring back any good news.
Thanks.
I was going to go with Adrian and then Jen.
Just on I have a question. Did the board ever actually, were they consulted or approve getting rid of the Latin program? I know 2 years ago, my son spoke to the board, and at that point, the board didn't know that, at least it didn't appear that way in the meeting, that the classes had been cut out of the schedule. So it didn't appear that it seemed like the decision was made to get rid of Latin, and I don't remember ever hearing of a board voting on it. And is that the proper way that would happen?
Well, I do believe that we have to keep our class sizes within that range of 20 to 24, and it's really not practical to run them. And I think the board was very much aware. We had done a survey. We had surveyed all students, I think, middle school and high school, about what their interests were in different languages. And believe it or not, some of the Asian languages were more, really came up as, something that students wanted to study. So we found through the survey, we presented the survey to the board, and they knew that, because there was a lot of discussion around Latin and the low numbers in Latin, and how could we sustain this? And I think there were about 4 FTEs cut out of the budget, so the Latin teacher took on some social studies because we had a retirement, and she needed to teach the social studies. So it was an economic reason, but there was a lot of discussion, and we did find out from our kids what they were interested in. I think we even gave the survey to parents as well at that time. I mean, it's not unheard of that you couldn't give another survey to see what interests are, but.
Yeah, that was the survey I was referring to, and that was after the schedule was out that year. So, and that's what I've got here. That's why I was bringing up the ASL, that it was very surprising that it was significantly more popular than French as far as the demand.
Well, and we're nervous about French. We have one teacher at each building, and French is another language that seems like, Spanish seems to be really one of the most popular languages, so we're trying to reboot it a little bit here. with especially bringing it down to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So,
Jen?
That's where my question was leading to, like, between French and Spanish, like, if there is consideration for Japanese and Chinese, which is, like, we need to look at the global society and where we're heading. And back in the day, yes, French was more of a diplomatic type of language, but it's not necessarily, as used. And as we have different cultures and populations, not necessarily in Connecticut, but outside where our students could be headed in the future. Not that I want to add more cost to the budget, but like starting in the elementary school and eventually working its way up.
I do think, I am excited to hear with the superintendent's, that discussion, I think, is the avenue that we would have to go, I think, with offering
we could offer many
more
Had a system.
languages if we had a system, where we could help each other out, I think is a great idea and something that we definitely should consider. At least that's the way to grow it, and then you can, you can recruit teachers and the students would find what their passion, and grow it with where you could maybe have a staff member at the school, but that's the issue is having just one teacher teaching a subject area makes it extremely difficult, because you have the different levels and so forth.
Dean?
Yeah, so getting back to Adrian's basic question, and this is the age-old question of where's the line? So is this something that falls on the other side of the line from us, where it's administration, you folks inform us of the problem, and you tell us of the challenges and what you're doing, but ultimately you decide? Or could the board, and maybe you don't have an answer to this, or could the board say, gosh darn it, we're going to have Latin, we're going to have Russian, we're going to have Mandarin Chinese, make it happen? Aye. Is that how that would work? Or ultimately, you can tell us, well, you may want Mandarin Chinese all you want, we're not going to offer it, and we have our reasons. Where are we on that?
That's a good question. Which
You know-
which side of the lane is that?
Because I was on the board at the time, and I also was disappointed in the cutting of Latin, the reality was that the students were voting with what they were signing up for. And unfortunately, those of us that would have preferred to preserve Latin also had to deal with this same question about class size. And we had board members that were had very strong opinions that we shouldn't be running classes. We actually had a board member that wanted to introduce an actual policy that a class would not run unless it had X number of students in it. And so it's a difficult tension. There was support on the board. However, no one introduced a motion to actually preserve Latin. So
And it didn't just go away. It didn't just go away. There were like 1 or 2 classes, I think, the first year, then it dropped down to 1, and it was partially, and you might know the student that, did some online and then some independent study, and so it was like that gradual, and then it ended. There was no one else. There might be still one person.
Yeah. I will say just because my family my second child was going to take Latin and it was upset that it was canceled. There is no promoting Latin in the middle school. There's promotion for French and Spanish, but no one actually talked to those kids and told them that Latin was an option. So I think if we as a board wanted to keep Latin, there could have been a little bit more selling.
absolutely, the board could have advocated for that, as they could for any number of languages that we may or may not be promoting at the middle school level right now toward the high school. And so that's something that, we can certainly study. I mean, for example, Jen has mentioned tonight that we should be looking at some other languages. And so that certainly would be something we could study. What do we want to advocate for?
Maybe we should just send the board members this language study that was done to start. I think that's pretty telling.
Or maybe we do another one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
check with
Check to see what.
the current.
Yeah.
We could do another survey, or I'll get you some news after my meeting to see what the other superintendents are thinking about.
Carefully worded. We want to make sure the answers are not based on people's experience in the school. Basically, the question would be, if you had your druthers, what would you like to see? Instead of, well, I'm not going to go with Latin because it's not offered anyway, kind of thing. So they'll say they don't have any interest in Latin. Sorry.
The question that I have, I still haven't heard an answer to the two questions that were asked, and that is, where does that, under whose purview does that fall? Is it a matter of curriculum? Does it come to us? Is it a matter of policy? Does it go to that committee? Or is it a matter of administration in terms of Susan and the central office? Or is it a matter of the board? That question was not answered. So I think we need to put that somewhere on our discussion. I think Phil has a response.
Did I have that look on my face?
Yes, you did.
Well, I just think we have to be careful. I mean, I think the conversation always comes to class size. And so to keep classes for personal reasons or, whatever the reason is, for 5 or 6 kids, it's a slippery slope. Then as Matt has been explaining, the more choices we have, the smaller the classes are, the harder they are to schedule. And and to Jen's point, I know as a principal, it was very difficult. In my former district, we tried to expand the language base and to find teachers to teach the language was the most difficult part. Now, absolutely, are there ways to raise interest that we can explore? Absolutely. But I think at that particular time, to force a class to run with 4 or 5 kids would have impacted the schedule, staffing.
And we cut 4 FTEs in
Yeah.
the social studies.
So I think the purview, I guess, to answer your question, is probably going to be more on the principal. Like we sort of put it on the principal to balance your classes, right? To see what can run and what could not, and so that helps shape the schedule. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're doing right now, right? We're just about to get to that point where kids are signing up for classes, and we'll have to make decisions, and some of that will impact teacher schedules, right? Teachers who are dual certified in a language right now might be teaching 5 French classes, but next year we might need them to teach 3 French and 2 Spanish. But to just keep classes going, to say we're offering it, I think it does a disservice to the school and to the staff, in my opinion.
So, I'll just, if I could. So what I'm hearing then is that it's going to fall on the principal. And the idea that Adrian brought up, which was if it had been sold, maybe it would have been more popular, or there would have been more interest in it at least. But right now, what I'm hearing then, and I'm hoping that this will answer our question, is that it really does fall on class size, but how we get to class size is the real problem. So.
And we do study enrollment over the course of multiple years, and maybe that's where the board would come in, is if we see a trend heading the wrong way, we can have that discussion with the board and say, okay, what do you think we could do? Is this something we want to continue? Are there ideas that we can do to boost the interest in certain programs? Because we do look at those numbers.
Thank you.
I believe Matthew had a question.
Thank you.
Comment?
I'm looking at this from a slightly different perspective. It is not a challenge to what's being said. Everything I've heard said is reasonable. But whether the decision is economic or class size or a curricular decision or a overt policy, it comes down to the budget, and the budget is within the purview of the board. So I think, as in so many things, and there's room to disagree, respectfully disagree. When it comes to making the decision on something that deals with the budget and policy, the administration, I believe, should bring all the data sets that you're talking about, have the discussion, and then the board decide. This is a process question, and we're talking about Latin now, but I'm not talking about Latin. I'm talking about Latin, the Naval Reserve, the masks, the tutors. There were very good reasons for the decisions that the administration took, and I don't gainsay them at all. But in terms of process, I, for one, would like to see more board involvement and participate in decision-making together. And we will almost all likely defer to the superintendent's decision if she makes the case. But I think we should play a part in that decision process.
So do I hear you making a referral that the board should review all classes at every school as to whether they'll run or not based on our analysis of the projected enrollment of the class?
That's not the point I was making, no.
Okay.
The answer is
Well-
no, but let me say why it's no. I'm not talking about just the issue of class size. I'm talking the issue about process in making decisions that are either obviously policy decisions, as was the case in some I cited, or others that are economic decisions, which comes under the budget, which is one of the functions of the board, that we should be engaged in the decision-making process on a collaborative basis with administration.
And I'm asking how would we do that?
I don't have an answer for you, quite honestly. I just would like to have the discussion at some point, but I don't want to phrase it as I'm making a referral to do X, Y, or Z, because there needs to be a collaborative discussion. It's not, I'm not advancing an agenda.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. In other words, if we get a projection of what students have signed up for what classes, whose job is it to decide whether that class runs or not? Is that going to be brought to the board every year for review?
I'll try again.
So,
We have, to my knowledge, and it's a limited knowledge of 2 years and a few months, to my knowledge, Latin has been the only topic that's come up on class size that I've heard where there was a possibility of something being dropped. So no, I don't think we need to institute a policy that all classes become.
Okay.
If we see something coming in another class at another time, and the administration brings their findings to us, in such a case as with Latin, I love Latin, I enjoyed Latin, I would like to see us teach Latin, but I would not have voted to promote Latin because we have to look at the institution as a whole rather than just a couple of students. But the process is far more than Latin. The process is, where is that line between administration and policymaking? And to me, just one person, the budget is our prime mission, and we've taken, I would have voted to support the the reserve training program, even if there were costs to us, but we never talked about it. We probably all would have voted to support, I certainly would have voted to support the superintendent's choice on masks. But again and again, things on masks, I'm looking back a couple of years where we said you made a decision on masking. And we remembered that a number of the board members were concerned that we were informed about stuff rather than participate in a collaborative way.
yeah, I
So
was trying to
don't wanna
get to the
belabor
budget,
point.
yeah, because we're talking about budget, so I was trying to zoom in on what you suggested we go forward with budget, but now that we're getting on to other topics.
I don't want to
guess
go
it's
on to
time
another topic.
Move ahead. Any other questions for Mr. Brown?
I've got two
Okay.
things I want to say.
Sure.
And I have yet to regret that I brought this up to begin with. That's flowered into something I didn't imagine. First, full disclosure for those who don't know, my daughter has taken Latin in high school. But I don't make the comments that I make because she's taking it. I wouldn't make the comments because I consider Latin an important course. It hasn't been considered important for a couple of generations now, but that's beside the point. I just make the same comments. Two, it seems to me that, and especially when we deal with the budget, it is budget related, that we very often look at what we offer as a school. And a lot of what we offer is determined by and large by the state. The state tells us kids will take this, kids will take that, this is your curriculum, et cetera. But to the extent that we can, instead of viewing it as sort of a, we're the producer, we're the service provider, what do the consumers want? So example, we did a survey, nothing wrong with a survey, asking parents and students, what would you like to see? It happened to be world language, could be something else. I would caution against moving too far in the direction of what does the consumer want and how do we provide them with the product? And keep a couple of steps back and remember that as an educational institution, which is what we are, we should put some thought into, we know that this may not be popular. We don't know whether something's going to be popular or popular enough to justify it economically. But darn it, I think we should offer it anyway, or try to offer it and generate interest in it, because we think that this is a valuable area for students to get into. It could be Latin, it could be something athletic, it doesn't matter what it is. That's just want to make a point. It's not really a question for you. Just want to make the point that we should not always think in terms of what do the consumers want. I'm all for the market, you know me, but this is not an area where we should always think that way.
All right, any other questions for Mr. Brown? If not, I think it's...
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
We appreciate hearing from you. And I believe next up we have the athletic director,
Mark Romano. Yeah.
Mr. Romano.
Now, do you have your special sheet to show?
Yeah, I wrote on it, but yes.
Huh? You wrote- I know, but do we have, did you send it?
Oh, I sent it to.
Is it this one?
No, it's a different one.
I wish I had known, but
If you have it, you can send it to me.
if I can find it. You can get started.
Oh, thanks.
I
Sorry.
can find it.
Well, thanks, everybody, for having me here today. So I think what I'm going to do is just give you a little snapshot on the middle school, kind of talk about that, and then transition over to the high school, and then answer any questions that you have. So currently at Groton Middle School, we have 9 head coaches, 10 assistant coaches. We offer 9 varsity interscholastic teams, 5 sub-varsity teams, and 10 intramural programs with 10 intramural staff. And those programs range from cross-country and soccer in the fall, basketball and volleyball in the winter, and boys and girls track and softball in the spring. With all the opportunities that we do offer these students, we are looking at possibly providing other opportunities coming up in the future. We've kind of explored some cost-efficient ways of doing so, possibly swimming for a co-ed swimming program, and as well as a wrestling program as well, which still trying to work those out, or that one out specifically.
I don't want to cut you off, but I want to make sure, are you talking about the middle school right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to make sure.
In regard to the intramurals, like I said, there's 10 of them, and I know someone had asked a question before about feeder programs and that in relation to the high school. So the intramurals are, how we view it is providing opportunities for students maybe that they would not receive, at the middle school or even outside the middle school in some occasions. Like, for example, archery. That's something that we've offered in the fall season that, we actually have a pretty good number of students who participate in that. In regard to somewhat of a feeder program, like this past fall, we did offer field hockey for the middle school, got a good turnout. And the reason why I kind of pick and choose at different times at different programs is because, for example, field hockey at the high school, there is no feeder program in the town that students maybe some don't even know anything about field hockey. So providing different opportunities for our middle school students that they may not normally have is something that I look at. And every year, it's not the same intramurals that we offer. We try to provide different opportunities. Again, just to get them open to different sports that are offered, possibly at the high school, and to provide them, each kid finds their own niche. I know in the middle school, in regard to field hockey, we had a girl who never participated in it, kind of was interested in it, ended up talking to her mother. She loved it, looking forward, when's the next camp? When's the next opportunity? So those types of things that we're offering at the middle school, and kind of segue into the high school are great opportunities for us. Some of the highlights that we do have, that we've had and do have here at the middle school, like I said, wide range of intramurals. We have a mentor program with Fitch High School students once a week where we meet with a handful of GMS students and FHS students, and we talk about homework. We help them with their homework. talk about, certain situations, leadership, character development, those types of things. So we do that on a weekly basis at the high school and at the middle school, kind of rotate between the two. GMS, in regard to athletics, there is kind of a new athletic conference that we did form over the last 3 years. It's called the Eastern Connecticut Middle School Conference. Consists of between 12 and 15 other middle schools in our area that we compete with. In the sports that I had mentioned, we're now providing championship meets, activities for these students where, like in cross country, we held the championship meet at Harkness Park, and it brought all the middle schools together, and we had a championship meet. In the fall, we had a soccer tournament. Groton Middle School ended up winning the tournament in boys soccer. The girls soccer team was in the final against Clark Lane. So again, providing opportunities for these students to have success, to feel a part of a team, to bring pride back to the middle school through announcements and those types of things, photos on a daily basis. Like I said, actually last year we had two undefeated teams, boys basketball and middle school soccer. And also a couple of the other things, we do provide study hall for our athletes at the middle school. And we do also offer a unified sports program at the middle school level, which actually will be kicking off shortly from basically February to May. A couple of the other things that we are starting, National Women, Girls in Sports Day coming up on February 7th. We're partnering with the Connecticut Sun. We'll be doing a free camp for our middle school girls. They're going to bring in some of their staff, professional athletes to kind of run a hour and 20-minute camp for our girls. Anybody, not just the middle school basketball team, but any girls who are interested in attending, they'll get a free T-shirt, meet some of the WNBA players, so it's a great opportunity for them. Also, partnering with the Groton Soccer Club, we'll be running Sunday clinics with some of our high school coaches and middle school coaches at the high school, so that's something that we have coming up. And then I think probably the most exciting thing, or one of the most exciting things, is the kind of the conclusion, or pretty close to conclusion, of that middle school turf facility and softball facility that we have. Some of you probably have already seen the lights are up, sound system's in place, just waiting on the scoreboard. So we're excited to kind of get that up and running, having some night contests for both the middle school and high school students. And, really, like even just driving by and seeing the little red lights on it, really now makes you feel like we have an actual sports complex now for our student athletes at both schools. So a lot of exciting things in regard to Groton Middle School. So that's kind of a brief snapshot of the middle school. Does anybody have any questions specific to Groton Middle School?
Dean?
Yeah, I'm sure this is just a bookkeeping thing. The number of coaches, head coaches, and, well, first of all, it says coordinator, it's a one FTE, right? Mm-hmm. And head coaches, assistant coaches.
Right.
I don't think those are broken out in the synopsis quite that way. Maybe it's a question for Dave, too, I don't know. So where in the synopsis would these coaches appear? Where's the coordinator?
It is on,
Yeah, I'm looking at the nifty little summary, which I like. Don't get me wrong.
oh, this one, okay.
Yeah. No, I see that. I was just.
Yeah, so Dean, they're not on a summary, not really counted as an FTE because they're all stipend jobs.
Oh, okay.
we do
So they're
have
not
the
really
stipend
counted as,
sheets, though.
Right.
the stipend sheets are there, yeah. So the cost of the coaches and the assistant coaches are there. You just don't count them as an or at least historically, we haven't counted them as an FTE.
I see what you mean. Yes, okay. So, yeah, I get that now. That's why I said it's probably just a sort of a bookkeeping thing. Thank you very much.
All right. Next, Adrian, and then I believe, I'm having difficulty with the big screen. I think Ian's got his hand up, but Adrian?
Yeah, this is going to go back to kind of what I asked Mr. Bass and what Mr. Brown said about these after-school activities, bringing kids into school, making them want to come to school, because I think that meeting was a long time ago, but I believe it's something like 10% of kids or even more are missing more than 20 days a year or 18 days a year or something like that. And I've done some reading saying that like these programs can actually help draw kids into school and cut those absentee rates down. So it looks to me like we're spending about 25% of the budget, or or 25% as much as we're spending on the middle school as we're spending on the high school. And like I was saying before, it seems like lots of kids are getting cut. Is the feeder program itself big enough? When I say 30 kids in 3 years, that can play soccer for 3 years, and then they get to high school, then they're only pushing, 8 kids through? How many kids does the high school soccer team need? And this is just, like I said, using soccer as an example. I'm just wondering if we as a district are spending enough money, because middle school sports are cheap compared to high school sports when we talk about cost per kid per year. So I guess I'm mostly asking if the feeder program's big enough, and then if we as a board think that we should be spending more money in the middle school programs.
I think the feeder program obviously could always continue to grow, provide more for our students, more opportunities. I think in regard to the interscholastic part, in looking at other local middle schools that we compete against, we try to align ourselves with the sports that they offer as well. So that's why when I talked about possibly adding additional sports to provide kids an opportunity, maybe that they wouldn't know anything about those sports, or, again, to be able to compete against some of the other local middle schools. But yeah, I agree. I think providing more feeder opportunities for students within the middle school would be a great thing. But I think based on kind of how we align, again, with other middle schools, I think we'd be looking at more the intramural aspect of it, and just kind of maybe creating more opportunity through that. But once those kids are getting to the high school, the high school team's really not, I don't know if I would say we're cutting a lot of kids. So, I think by partnering with, like you said, with like soccer, for example, with the Groton Soccer Club, I think still making the connections with the coaches and the kids at that level, then hopefully that's transforming up to the high school as well, so.
And Ian?
Thank you. So, quick question about, I found the sports and student activities breakout sheet that came in our packet this week. And there's a function number 1529 for fencing. And I see that you have budgeted for one head coach and one assistant coach. And looking at the totals there for the head coach and assistant coach positions, how do those rates compare with other schools that we compete with?
So, sorry, Ian, are we talking about the middle school or the high school? Talking about the high school rate?
This could, I would assume a high school. I don't know, the sheet's not specific. I guess it would be high school.
Okay.
Yes. Right, no, I see it, yeah. Fitch High School.
So can you repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Looking at the fencing salaries for the assistant coach and the head coach. I'm just wondering if we, how do what we're offering compare, how does that compare to other schools in our region?
Quite honestly, the Schedule C, that really is a GEA contractual issue. I don't want to say issue, but decision. Thank you. Decision. But, I don't know the exact numbers for fencing in particular in regard to other districts. I know I had put something together a while back that compared that. Unfortunately, I don't have it in front of me, but
I think it was used in negotiations.
yeah. So, I guess I really can't answer that right now, but I can answer that, another day, tomorrow or whenever else I can get that information over to you.
But
We're doing
basically,
a FAQ sheet, so.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yep.
these were all all stipends are negotiated with GEA. And they,
GEA is Groton Education Association?
That's
right, yeah,
What's the acronym?
they bring in their their figures, and we work with them to come up with the stipends.
All right. Yeah, I gotta be honest, I'm not too familiar with that organization.
It's our teachers' union.
Oh, right, okay,
Yeah.
got it. Sorry. I thought it was called something else. My apologies. And, let's see. Going back to the other sheet. Sorry. As, I don't know, this is more of a general note. It is a little difficult to parse out between middle school and high school with some of this organization here. All right, so. All right. Oh, the travel costs and entry fee costs. How is that calculated with, with the bus contract and, some teams and groups have, more equipment to carry around versus, ones that are just carrying people? Are these buses, are these charter buses, are these box trucks? The 587 line?
So that's our transportation for, you talking about a sport in particular, or the entire transportation budget for athletics?
Yeah, I'm looking at that line item, and I guess, is there a breakout for that available where it is assigned to different teams and whatnot?
So how at least we look at the transportation budget is based on the schedule that's provided for each program that we offer. So for example, boys golf, for example, whatever the schedule that's provided to us, and then we have some pickup matches maybe that we would have outside of our conference. The actual budget would be kind of put together based on those trips that they would make, if that makes sense. For example, if we're going to East Lyme, it would kind of be X amount of money as opposed to going to Woodstock. That would be obviously a larger sum based on the travel time, maybe the sit time by the driver and things like that.
All right, and where exactly, or?
There were increases, as you know, but Mark Romano has really been very creative as far as going to the town for Parks and Rec and getting some of the smaller vehicles so that golf teams, swim teams, some of those teams at a much more nominal cost. So he's really used his resources, his collaboration skills, his networking to facilitate so we can really manage these increases that we've seen so that our kids can get places. We've even contemplated getting our own bus. That comes with a price tag too, but as you can imagine, it's been a little tricky this year with the cost.
Understood. Appreciate that. And just out of curiosity, how does marching band relate to the athletic department? Is that classified as a club or as a athletic endeavor, or is it class, educational?
I don't oversee the marching band. I'm primarily oversee the sports programs.
So marching band is not considered an athletic activity?
No. It may in the budget, but, personally, for me, no.
All right. Yep. All right, I'm all set for now, thank you.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Mark about Groton Middle School sports at this point? If not, did you want to move on to
Sure.
the high school?
Yep. So, again, brief snapshot about the high school. Currently, we have 27 head coaches and 35 assistants with 31 varsity athletic teams and 29 sub-varsity athletic teams. Some of the highlights, like Mr. Brown had talked about, our Falcon Academy really is taken off. I think as the year has gone on, just finding different ways to hold the kids accountable for those students who are struggling with Ds and Fs, different ways of communicating with coaches, parents, the students, our staff that helps run that program has done an exceptional job. I usually get a message every day for which sport, what kids have shown up, what kids haven't, and then we go from there. So really holding those kids accountable. I send out a weekly, we do a grade pull every week for those students, again, who have Ds or Fs, and I send that out to the coaches, and then we contact the students, and they're obligated to attend the following week. So that's kind of how that process has been going. We do have also a Student Athletic Advisory Council at the high school, which supports the Fitch High School community as well as the Groton Mystic community as well, and I'll touch upon that in a second. We have 3 student athletes who are a part of the Eastern Connecticut Conference Diversity Council representing Fitch High School and our Eastern Connecticut Conference at not only the local level but the state level as well. And again, in regard to the Student Athletic Advisory Council, some of the things that they've done, packing and distributing meals during the holiday seasons, helping with pep rallies and promotion of athletic and other events within the school. Also recognizing all ECC, all state scholar athletes and sportsmanship recipients, conducting youth camps within our community, like I mentioned before, the mentor program. Our student athletes have been mentioned and nominated and even received our ECC, our Athletic Conference Athlete of the Week. I actually put out a Fitch Athlete of the Week, which hopefully most of you have seen. To our student body, we have a bulletin board at that point in the athletic hall where we put those photos up to recognize those students. We do have an initiative coming up, Coaches vs. Cancer. That's coming up next month. We've also participated in Students Against Domestic Violence Initiative, where we've donated money back to these initiatives to help support those programs. And then we also offer, obviously, a Unified Sports Program, which has been a huge, probably one of the biggest things, I think, to support our student athletes, where we have our special needs students as well as our general ed students working together, a really tremendous program. We offer that 3 times a year, and our coaches have done an outstanding job promoting it and coming up with different activities and fundraisers for those students. So I can't say enough about that program. We've also hosted Groton Middle School basketball on Friday night at that game. They came out, helped support our high school program. We've done the same for the girls basketball program. And for the soccer programs, we came up with this thing where our high school student athlete who wears the same number that the student athlete at the middle school will be wearing. We kind of do a little ceremony.
Nice.
We're passing, if it's number 18, the high school student athlete is giving the number 18 to the middle school student athlete.
Nice.
So really kind of creating that cohesiveness amongst those programs. Let's see.
Phil, can you push it up? I think there's.
Also, I talked about that. And like I said, I think we've done a great job publicizing our student athletes at the high school, both locally and on a statewide level. I think our coaches work extremely hard. I'm proud of all of them and the effort and the time that they put in to support our students. I think the relationships that they're building with our students are second to none. And I think that, we're, again, helping those student athletes, working with them to obviously go on to the next level. Some may choose to go to college, some may not, but having those conversations with those students one way or another and being there to support and listen to them and help them with the next chapter after they leave high school. So those are some of the things that we've been doing at the high school.
Mark? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I understand how Falcon Academy works, and I understand that the credit goes to everybody who's running it. But I really wonder about the results. How is that?
I mean, knock on wood.
Yeah.
We have had, none of our student athletes become ineligible for athletics.
Okay.
Specifically this year. That may change tomorrow as we do a grade pull, but,
I would also argue, I just want to chime in, what it does is a lot of our athletes are really fighting to not be on that list. So they are, if they turn something in and the teacher hasn't graded it yet, they'll run and ask the teacher, can you please get that in the grade book, because I don't want to have to go to Falcon Academy. So as a deterrent system, it works just as effective as a system in the Falcon Academy, so.
And Dr. Ackerman, you remember that policy when they brought it to us, and we said, is that going to happen for all kids? And you made us that promise, and it is. I was over there, and you all were all surrounded, looking at those grades and pulling them every other week to make sure. So that's dedication.
Thank you. Well done.
thank you.
Any other questions for Mark around the high school program? Okay, thank you
The
very
last
much.
thing, sorry, I just wanted to, just so everyone kind of understood the process
Yep.
that I go through in looking at our budget. You know, I think the most important thing is having those conversations with our coaches at our end of the year evaluations. Just kind of what are the needs of our programs in particular, and then looking at, you know, expenses from previous years and changing in rules and policies within the state level. For example, this past year, we had to budget for new shot clocks because our boys and girls basketball programs at the state level adopted 35-second clocks. So kind of knowing those processes and the increases that come along with those and planning ahead. So I just kind of wanted to give you a quick briefing as to how that process kind of pans out.
And you're also dealing with the change in the state program about which teams you compete against? Where are we there?
So we actually, as a league, are following an alliance policy. It's a state alliance, scheduling alliance, so, you know, some of our out-of-conference games are already, as you probably have seen with other schools and other conferences, North Haven and Fairfield County schools, some schools in the Central Connecticut Conference. So kind of our students are getting exposed to different athletic conferences, which is actually giving our student athletes exposure and success and recognition outside of just the Eastern Connecticut Conference. So it's really been a success for us. And really, if the state were to adopt that, we've kind of already been doing that. So I don't think it would really have much impact on us. Maybe a little bit travel-wise, but overall, we're kind of already doing that.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all. We really
Yes,
appreciate
thank you.
spending the evening with us.
And I know you all have early calls, so please don't feel like they have to stay.
No, they don't. Now Denise is coming to talk
Okay.
special.
All right.
We might not get to Phil. We might have to
Okay.
wait Thursday, I don't know.
Okay. Let me know. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Have a good night.
Appreciate it. Denise, yeah.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll talk.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, Denise.
So I wanted to highlight a few of the support service or special education programs at the middle school and high school. Last time we met, I gave an overview of some of the elementary programs after the elementary principals presented. And tonight I wanted to give a brief overview on our middle school, high school programs, and then talk to you a little bit about our tuitions that we pay for our vocational students and our magnet students and our outplaced students. So just a few highlights on the special education overview page related to the middle school, high school. We do provide a continuum of classrooms and program models for students at middle school, high school, starting from a resource model, which would be the least restrictive, to a more self-contained special needs program. We have one class at the middle school that is a class of autistic or multiply disabled students, and then we have 2 classes with that population of students at the high school. We also have 2 classrooms at the middle school for students who are working on social behavioral skills. And then we have more of an alternative high school program at Fitch High School. We have the New Beginnings program that serves a larger group of students who are working with skills such as coming to school regularly, completing work, managing their emotions, and developing those learning behaviors and work skills that they'll need to be successful outside of school. We also have a robust support staff in terms of speech pathologists, school psychologists, social workers, and of course our guidance counselors at both schools. They assist with many social emotional learning needs. They support students who need risk assessments. Sometimes we have students engaging in questionable behavior, and we will support the principals and the teams in contracting for a risk assessment for that student. We also have an alternative high school, middle school program here at Central Office that we refer to as the Central Office Apex Academy. And that allows students who are either expelled or who've made poor choices repeatedly to have an opportunity to come out on a partial school day and work with a small group of students and staff to continue to move forward in their studies and earn credit. We also provide counseling, and we have some electives for those students. We have an art teacher and some other staff that come directly here to Central Office to support those students. My office consists of myself. I have 3 supervisors that work with me, and 1 student services facilitator who works directly with middle school, high school, supporting their planning and placement team meetings. A lot of our student plans are developed and reviewed at either a 504 meeting or a planning and placement team meeting, and this takes the administrators out of the classroom. It takes them away from their duties supervising students and teachers, and we want to be able to support them so that they can have more time in the classroom. So we all support them with those meetings, but Mr. Peluso, our facilitator, really takes the bulk of the meetings at middle school and high school. We, of course, I think everyone knows, we have our Transition Academy here at the central office. We do have a new mandate that is an unfunded mandate that has extended the age of eligibility for students in public school in Connecticut. Students now stay through the school year in which they turn 22. So instead of leaving what used to be 21, then it became 22, and now they stay through the school year of the year they turn 22. So we do monitor that enrollment closely to make sure that it's a working, it's a group that is appropriate in size. So you will see when we talk about tuitions in a moment, we do have a line in our tuitions for vocational. These are students who require services beyond grade 12 in the area of secondary transition, but who are not necessarily appropriate for the Transition Academy. They may have a job placement out in the community for 2-3 days per week. And we evaluate that annually. Those students don't necessarily stay in the system until the school year in which they turn 22. Some other highlights I wanted to share with you is that, as you're all aware, the VNA will no longer support the school district for our nurses and health aides after June 30th, but I do work closely with the VNA, with the school nursing supervisor, and with our medical advisor, Dr. Seekand, also to support the schools on any medical issues or questions that they have around treatment plans or life-threatening allergies, any type of special medical conditions that they need support with. And then we did put a little bit of information on the right-hand side at the bottom of the overview, just touching a little bit upon the number of students that are experiencing housing insecurity. Unfortunately, those numbers continue to grow. There's many factors that contribute to students and families experiencing housing insecurity. We do work very closely with our regional partners. There are laws that protect students who have housing insecurity so that they have what's called school stability. We want them, when their housing situation is in flux, we want students to be able to have at least one constant, consistent experience, and that is to return to their school of origin. So we work very closely with our regional partners to provide transportation so that students can do that, if it's reasonable, if the distance is reasonable and the age of the child is reasonable, because we have to use curtain livery. Our bus contract does not allow the buses to leave the district. And we have had some grants through COVID that supported curtain livery in our homeless population, but the majority of the funds go towards transportation. We do have a small amount of funds. We provide backpacks, winter coats. We actually let the kids come down when they register and they pick out whatever they need. And we really just make sure that they have what they need and they feel comfortable going to school. And they're not wanting for a backpack, a winter coat, or school supplies. So that's just an overview of some of the services we provide at the middle school, high school level, and some services at the elementary level as well. Any questions or?
Thank you, Denise. Any questions for Denise?
I have two.
Okay, Jen and then Andrea.
Mine's quick. I just want to.
Sure.
So you said it's the age is going to go up to 22. Are they mandated to come, or can they stop at like 20 or 21?
So the majority of students will graduate at the end of
I'm
grade
sorry,
12.
I had a little difficulty hearing the question. What was the question?
My bad, Ian. I forgot to press the mic. The question was the mandate stating that the students need to go to age 22. I was just asking if they have the right or the option to stop at 20 or 21.
They do.
They do.
They do, yeah. The majority of students will graduate at the end of grade 12 with a regular high school diploma.
Okay.
But there's a small percentage of students who will receive services from an adult agency called the Department of Developmental Services. And they provide vocational services, recreational services to individuals with intellectual disabilities, and they will not accept the students until June of their 22nd school year.
Okay.
So those students typically are in the Transition Academy and they stay with us
Till 22.
to the end of the school year in which they turn 22.
Okay.
So if their birthday's in September, they stay the whole year.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have two questions. Thank you again.
Thank you.
I have two questions. The first one is, did I hear that there's an administrator who doesn't belong to the building? Let me ask it this way. Does the principal or the assistant principal attend the PPT?
They most definitely do, yes.
Okay. And who's the fellow who?
So Mark Peluso is our student services facilitator, and he supports the middle school and the high school principals. He's only .5. The other .5, he's a teacher at Fitch High School in special education.
So who runs the PPT?
Well, it depends. It could be the principal, well, usually the assistant principal, Mr. Peluso, a supervisor, or myself.
Okay, so what I heard was that, in essence, if the principal is busy, then somebody else would run the PPT.
Well, we usually schedule the PPTs with an administrator that we know is going to be there, because we have to let the parent know on the invitation who's going to be present at the meeting.
Okay.
And most of the administrators are assigned a grade level. So Mr. Danieluk has grade 8, Ms. Singleton at the middle school has grade 7, and Mr. Davis has grade 6.
Okay.
So those are their students whose meetings they attend, but there are some students that Mr. Peluso will chair meetings, so it frees them up a little bit. And then we have programs that we supervise. So I supervise the autism and multiple disabilities programs, so I would chair those meetings. And Mrs. Van Ness and Ms. Rutolo supervise the academy program at the middle school and the NBA program at the high school, and they would chair those meetings.
Okay.
So we usually know who's going to chair that meeting.
Okay, but the principal or the assistant may, in essence, should be there.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the second one is, this may not be for you, I don't know, but do you have any idea yet, or can you tell us if conversations are going on about who will there be nurses in the school, and who will replace the VNA?
Well, there will definitely be nurses in the school, and we hope school health aides as well. And we hope a supervisor, a nursing supervisor, to support them, because they have that medical expertise that we don't have. But we're working to, with our regional partners. There are 4 districts that the VNA supports: Groton, New London, East Lyme, and Waterford. And we're really, with Susan and Jay's support, looking at all of our options at this point.
I just met with superintendents from Learn, the superintendents involved. We talked about even sharing some resources and making it efficient. I also reached out to Dr. Horgan, and he's checking in on Hartford Healthcare and what their capabilities are. We reached out to Ledgelight, so and I know that you've reached out to our nurses, and most of them are really happy they want to stay.
Oh, nice.
So I think, and I talked to John Burt this week too, and I said, this could be, an efficient cost savings way to run business, but we're not used to being in the nursing field, and so, we have to do this with great care, so that we,
But we're on it.
But we're so
very
on it.
much
That was
on
my
it.
question.
And Dr. Ackerman, the VNA has been very supportive in the transition. There's a no-compete clause at this point, so we can hire the nurses directly through the district, or they will be, provided a position with Yale New Haven Health. But we did reach out to all of them and let them know that we value them. We value their services, and we wanted them to know that we are working very carefully, to make sure that we have a plan that works for everyone. And they were very appreciative.
Very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Denise? Ian?
Yeah, well, thank you for the time. Couple questions. In regards to the nursing program, before the VNA started, before we started contracting with them, what was our arrangement? How do we handle the nursing responsibilities in the schools?
Well, I've been here for quite a few years, and we've only had the VNA since I've been here.
Yeah, it's been longstanding from what I understand, and actually the town has been contributing to that particular contract.
Yeah, there's some VNA services that in the contract that go directly to the town.
Right.
So, do we know how long we've been with them?
No, I could do a little research if you add it to my FAQ. I'll see what I can find out. It's way before our time, though. So
I think it's before mine.
it might be before Dr. Ackerman's time, too.
So that would be 1960.
Never mind.
Oh, sorry. I'm just trying to estimate.
But Ian, a lot of other districts have taken it on themselves, like in southeastern Connecticut, we're only the 4 districts that have the VNA and and I think there is something going around through the different superintendents, through CAPS, looking at how nursing is handled in all the different districts. So that should be a good document for me to use.
All right, I appreciate that. Yeah, whatever information you can send me, I'd like to know how we operated before the VNA situation. Maybe there's something we can use there to build off of.
I think it was Florence Nightingale.
And for special ed, now, in regards to like IEP implementation and, can you just take me through what happens when, say, there's a conflict between the parents and the people implementing the plan, or some sort of,
So what I'm hearing, Ian, I think is a referral to have Denise come back and discuss how her department works, because right now we're trying to get through the budgetary aspects of this. But I'm sure Denise would be more than happy to come back and explain her department. So.
All right, so maybe let me rephrase it a little bit. If a parent has special requests, how is that funded?
How is it funded? Is that your question? How is it funded?
Yeah, yeah, say, as far as, assistive technology, or tutors, or, if there's something in the IEP that, is a special request, how is that handled?
Well, we have a grant. It's in the grant section. It's the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. And in that grant, we do have earmarked funds for adaptive equipment, FM amplification systems, iPads for students in the autism program who are nonverbal, some special seating, changing tables for students who are in wheelchairs. So we may fund it through the IDEA grant, or we may fund that special request through our instructional supply account, because every teacher is allocated about $850 per year for special materials or curriculum that they may need to teach their students that maybe, need something different than the general curriculum.
I appreciate that. And that determination is sort of a group effort with the parents and the caregivers and the special education department, or is it just the special education department?
Which determination, if the materials go in the IEP or how they're funded?
Both.
Well, the planning and placement team is a team, so the team would make the recommendation, and then we would determine how it would be funded here at central office. The teachers generally send us the purchase order, and then we would discuss whether they have enough money in their instructional supply account to cover the item, or if we needed to purchase it through the grant.
And if that item was, say, a tutor or a specialized, like a tutor, would that also be the same process?
Yes, yep, it would be. Except they wouldn't be funded through an instructional supply account. It would be more through a personnel account.
All right, thank you.
All right, any other questions for Denise about the budget, the special education budget? All right.
So,
Thank you.
Jay, if it's okay with you, I just wanted to give the board a quick overview on the tuition accounts.
Okay.
So you'll see in your budget, we have function 4121, which is our tuition accounts. So we just want to walk you through them because they are a little bit smaller than they've been in years past because of the elimination of the magnet tuition. So what you'll see in function 4121 is just tuition for students in special education. We have a little count for you as of December 21st. So you can see with IEPs, 504s, and then combined IEPs and 504s, the number of students in each category, because we wanted you to have a sense of how many students are we talking about. So we have a vocational account, and again, those are some of the students that we were talking about earlier who need support with employment and post-secondary education after high school. And there's 12 students who receive some sort of job coaching, small group supported employment in the community. And we contract with an agency called Sharp Training to provide those services. Then you'll see another account, 562, board placed. Those are students that we try very hard to program for within district, but whose needs are greater than what we can provide in district. And we have 19 students that the board has placed in some of our area programs like Waterford Country School or Learn, just as an example. Line 563 are agency-placed, and you'll see we only have 5 agency-placed students. And the reason for that is that the agencies are DCF and the Department of Developmental Services, and they have greatly scaled back the number of students that they're placing outside of the home. All of their funds are going towards providing services in-home. And then lastly, we have magnet choice. So even though districts are no longer required to pay magnet tuition next year, if a student has an IEP or a 504 plan and they require speech and language services or a self-contained classroom at the magnet school, we are billed for those special education services. And right now, we have 69 of those students. And then you'll see the accounts on the next page.
I don't know where you're referring to.
I haven't been able to find it.
Oh, sure, we're in the function code, which is to the pink tab, and it's under 4121.
I know, I've been looking for it too, Denise, I'm not finding it.
Oh,
Huh?
do they not have it, Dave? Oh, you know what, Dave? It looks like it stops at 4110.
11, yeah.
Oh, I just found it. 4121 is in front of it.
In the chapter 3 that we just got.
Yep, at the end of
just
the
out of
pink
order?
tab. It's just out of order.
I've got the adult ed towards the end. Is it after teaching and learning?
In my book, it's at the end. It's right before 4110. It's after 2560 health services.
Still not finding it.
Oh, 2560, I found that. Here we are. Okay.
Did you find it?
Yes.
Okay. So you'll see the dollar amounts underneath the chart that correlate to each of those groups of students. So you'll see first the special ed tuition for the students that are board placed. Those are students that are placed at approved private special ed programs like the Waterford Country School. We have some students at River Street School and Ocean Avenue Learning Academy. And we do have a slight decrease next year. And that is because we're always trying to bring students back when they're ready to come back to district. We also have line 568, our magnet school tuition, and that is also a decrease of $227,000. We have seen many of our magnet students return to district, and we're hopeful that with our transition kindergarten programs, that we may see more of our friendship school students return as well. And then you can see we also have for non-public schools, actually, this is where 562 for non-public, would be where a school like Waterford Country School would be. And then you can see our state agency, and we have a slight increase of 53,000. So these accounts, particularly the board-placed accounts in either the public school, which is the RESC, or the private school, fluctuate. They can fluctuate for a number of reasons. Either a student might move into the district with an IEP that says they're already placed at one of these schools, and we're required to continue that placement. Or it could be a student is aging out at the end of the school year, or it could be that that student is ready to come back to district. That's always the goal. So we just wanted to review that with you because it is a significant amount of funds, but we do monitor it very carefully. We have an admin assistant who's actually based in Dave's office, in the business office, but who interfaces with both Dave and I, and all she handles primarily is tuitions, paying our invoices, monitoring the students, keeping track of their attendance. She does a few other things as well, but a big part of her job is monitoring and paying the tuition, encumbering those funds, and then we review every bill that comes in every month, make sure the student obviously is still enrolled. These are students that when they move, we know they move.
I would think this would be very difficult to predict.
It
I mean,
is.
do you find that if you look at the history, that there's a trend you can see, or
Well, the
do you stay up at night thinking that there could be a big change tomorrow?
Well, the supervisors and I work very hard to develop good relationships with our parents and talk about when students are ready to come back. But part of the issue is, I'll be honest, that when students are in a small, supportive program like the Waterford Country School for many years, it's hard for parents to see them coming back to a larger school like Groton Middle School or Fitch High School. So sometimes it takes a while to get them back. And we have tours, we do all sorts of things to help that child and that family feel comfortable. And the school is very important too, in reassuring the parent that the goal is always that the student rejoins their public school. And the school's very supportive when that time comes. But it can be a little delicate because it's a tough transition for some families.
But I mean, also, someone could literally move into the district tomorrow.
Correct.
So,
That's correct.
so do you see a lot of volatility in this?
Not really, and I have to say, it's because of the programs that we have in district. It's because of our autism programs at Mystic River, Groton Middle, and Fitch High School, that are staffed with such capable professionals.
And our academy.
And our academy programs.
Multi-disability.
Yep.
We
that
really
they-
have it all here.
Yeah, we try, as you know, we had Ian Williamson and Samantha King come and talk to you about their role as board-certified behavior analysts. So we really try to provide the same services that the private schools have. The only difference is our schools are larger. So for students that need a smaller, more predictable setting, a private school would be a better fit. But we try to replicate those programs by providing the supports here so that we can keep as many students in district.
But now, from a budgetary standpoint, are these the kinds of expenses that are eligible for the state excess cost reimbursement?
Yes,
So that kind of buffers
yes,
any concern about going over budget on these items?
yes.
Okay,
Yep, correct.
okay, thank you. Ian?
Thank you, Jenny. Quick question, just looking over the sheet again, I'm not seeing a line for ESL tutors. Do we have tutors for doing English as a second language?
Yes, I believe that is, we had just talked about that one. Let's see. That is function 1220, other special instruction, K to 12.
And how many do we have?
One at each level.
Yeah, I'm going to let Dr. Piazza address that. This is his department.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you could see under the function code, you can see one at each level, one at the elementary, one at the middle school, and one at the high school.
I'm sorry, you said, I'm still working on getting to the page.
That's okay, yeah. It was
1220?
Function 1220, yep.
Sorry, this page jumps from 1210 to 1230.
Okay, it's right above 1270, remedial instruction, and then it jumps down to 1220. And it's after 1124, so it is a strange jump, but it's after health occupations. And you can see the breakdown, the elementary teacher works throughout 3 of the buildings. CK, Mystic River, and Thames River.
So we have 1 tutor going between 3 buildings?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They also Ian, they also oversee the tutors, and we actually have someone who runs the grant, who had been kind of overseeing the program and continues to help support that through the grant in Title III. And so it's really a collaborative effort. We really look at the caseloads probably 3-4 times a year and just make adjustments for the tutor caseloads as seen needed with kids moving in and out. So it's really a unified effort between the 3 FTEs in the teacher union and the teachers, and then also the tutors that work with them.
So I feel a little concerned about it overall because, you know, elementary years are the most formative years, and as has been documented, there are some, you know, for lack of a better term, implicit biases in the system where, you know, someone can be very high functioning, you know, with their intelligence and their ability to learn, but it's just the language that's the barrier. So, you know, having ESL tutors available to help, you know, manage that interface between the student and the curriculum.
Well, and that's
just
why we
seems like
have
a-
the tutors available too. So the caseloads are really, you know, between each of them, I really don't think there's more than 10 students between the tutor and the, you know, and then the teacher overseeing them. And there's assessment done with Lost Links. We can certainly bring that to your attention when we get those results and show you how kids are growing and moving along and kind of exiting all the time. So to show you evidence that the program is really working.
All right, and the tutors that assist the ESL instruction, are they bilingual as well? The ones that work?
Not
closely
all
with
of
the
them,
students?
not all of them, but some are, speak other languages. Of course, we have many, many languages spoken. It's not just Spanish, you know, and there's so many languages. So an ESL teacher and tutor are highly trained to be able to teach people coming in, you know, our language. So no matter what their language is, so.
All right, thank you. I'll follow up with an email on
Okay.
that as well, too. Thank you.
Adrian?
Yes, I'm just wondering how many ELL students we have in the district, or ESL students.
I can get you that number. I don't know that off the top of my head.
All right.
And I know there's an extraordinary number of languages that we support.
I'm sorry, what was that number of the students in the school?
I said I'd have to
ELL
get that number. I'd have to get that to you. I don't have it.
We have a breakdown per school we can give you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it just seems
other
the ratio's a little extreme there. Thank you.
Any other questions for Denise? Thank you, Denise.
All right. Ready for the finale?
We want to do the grand finale? or-
Drum roll.
Dr. Ackerman's running out of lifesavers, so I better get moving.
Oh, boy.
Well, I get the privilege of talking about some programs that I don't think we often talk about enough, and definitely get the chance to talk about different areas that I think are really opportunities for improvement and advancement for both students, our community members, and our faculty. I'm going to start with the high school completion program. This is to provide.
I have to send it out. He put this together.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You don't have multiple copies, do you?
I do.
Oh,
The function code is 1310. The high school completion program provides adults with the opportunity to earn a high school diploma. The program's run by 2 part-time administrators. They oversee 10 part-time staff members. It operates during both the fall and spring semesters, 3 days a week, 3 evenings a week, from 5:30 to 8:30. And the students must complete 26 credit hours to be eligible to receive their diploma. When they do complete the credit diploma, the students receive a Groton Public Schools Adult Education Program diploma. On average, there's been about 9 students enrolled during each semester of the program over the past year or so. The number of courses offered fluctuates based on the student population and their needs in meeting graduation requirements. The big numbers there are really for the 2 co-leaders, stipends, and the payroll for the part-time staff, the 10 part-time staff. I will make note that the program recently underwent a program quality and compliance review by the State Department and received very high marks, met all the criteria for that review. So we're proud of that and the hard work of the 2 co-leaders.
So this is one of those programs where the entire $85,000 will appear in our budget, and then the reimbursement will go directly to the town. Is that correct?
Is that correct, Dave?
Is that correct? Is that how I'm reading the footnote, or?
It does say it's partially paid by the State Department grant received directly from the town of Groton.
Do we get any adult ed grant directly here to pay for adult ed? And I know the adult ed grant basically goes right to New London, who's taking care of adult ed.
Right, right. Yeah, I'm going to have to just chase the money on this one because it's the correlation between us and the town. I also have to go transaction by transaction.
Okay.
I can certainly follow up for you.
Okay.
Yep.
The adult ed program, which Susan was just referring to, that is function code 1320. As she said, is in partnership with New London Adult Ed, and it offers courses for any Groton resident, English as a second language, General Education Development Program, or GED, Adult Basic Education Program, the ABE, and a Citizenship Preparation class. The ESL and GED programs are offered right here in Groton, but the other courses are offered at the New London location. Upon completion of the GED program, students receive a State of Connecticut GED diploma. The GED program has rolling enrollment throughout the year for all Groton residents. Students must be at least 17 years of age to enroll in that program. And the cost, which, as Susan said, is paid directly, the cost you see there is paid directly to New London Public Schools.
From the grant.
From the grant.
And some of you might have seen those really nice pamphlets that come in. They're quite extensive, the different opportunities that any of our Groton citizens can participate in New London in their adult ed. Everything from cooking and, you know.
Italian is on Monday night.
Oh, is it always on Monday night?
It's on Monday.
Moving on to our summer school program, that's function code 1412. Again, this is provided for a number of different reasons, for high school level credit for students who have failed a course and need to meet the requirements for their diploma. It can be also used for credit recovery, like we said, course advancement. It could be a continuation of APEX. It could be even 8th grade enrichment. I have some great numbers that I can share with the whole board in terms of our numbers from last year. Our participation, increased over this past year. The numbers that, the Fitch Summer School, the money goes towards, our summer libraries, the curriculum writing that sometimes happens over the summer as well. Part of the summer school was in ARP, so that's now coming over to us. And part that we have not historically budgeted for, meaning that the summer school has grown. And again, it's not because we have more kids who are failing, but it's also we have more students who are interested in taking that course to get ahead of the game, heading into next year. And like I said, we had over 50. We had 56 students who were taking more than one class. Again, for a variety of different reasons. The courses are offered in both APEX, which is through computer or teacher taught. It's pretty evenly mixed as to, 79 courses were taken via Apex and 88 teacher taught. They're taken in the four main content areas, mostly math, English, social studies, science. There's an other category where 14 courses were taken. I don't have the breakdown of what those were. Most of the credit recovery classes were taken as teacher-taught classes. Like I said, I can send this all out to the board. It's just great information to show you how much work our kids are doing over the summer. Like I said, either to make up that credit that they lost during the school year or to get ahead in what they're doing. So
And it looks like a tremendous increase, but that's because we had ARP ESSER funds.
Yep.
So you might see that along the way in this budget, where it was covered from a grant and now it's no longer.
Right. I mean, it's, some of the percentage numbers on my sheet here are rather large, but the reason for that is because much of it was, previously paid for by ARP ESSER. The teaching and learning and the improvement of instruction areas are, the departments which I generally lead with a lot of assistance from my central office personnel. The teaching and learning part, that includes, the people I work with up here to help organize the teaching and learning throughout the district, our STEM coordinator, our literacy leader, our data manager, our communication director, all of those people sort of play a part in not only developing the teaching and learning that's going on in the district, but communicating that out and organizing that across all the levels, elementary, middle, and high. So the teaching and learning are...
And the admin assistants, too, that help out.
And the admin assistants who keep the whole thing together, of course.
That's right.
Improvement of instruction. As it says here, it supports new instructional materials for teachers, professional resources. This is the professional development. This is the curriculum writing, everything that helps the district flow, helps us, as I say, we're always asking how do we provide the best for kids, and that's through, continually improving our teaching and our instruction. We're always asking of ourselves, of our administration, of our teachers, how are we going to get better throughout the year? How are we going to be better in June than we were in September? And a lot of that falls under this umbrella. Part of that you'll see is computer software. We don't believe that computer software makes us better. It's just a tool to help us. It's not the teacher. In order to improve the instruction, we work on ourselves. We work on the instruction. We work with our certified teachers. We provide funds for them to prep. We really believe, as a cost-saving measure too, is to have professional development that's led by our own. And we do have a lot of strong people in a lot of different areas across the district, and we try to use them. We do pay them for their prep time and for the workshops that they offer, and we're trying to encourage that more and more. The computer software itself is a big jump, as you'll see in the budget, because there's no DoD supplemental funds anymore, and that's where over $125,000 was being paid for by that DoD supplemental. In terms of instructional improvement, out of my office comes, the district professional development days, and we work very hard with all the administrators to find out the priorities that are needed in their building, as well as the district initiatives, and we try to marry those two, and we have the TLI days that are spread out that the board has graciously given us and that are so valuable. We split those up, department time, grade level time, as well as building initiatives and district level initiatives. We obviously have the 4 full days, the 2 in the summertime just before school starts, and we have election day, and then we have one coming up in March as well. Those are the full PD days that we plan. Again, before I got here, I know there was a regional PD, and it was kind of great. We can offer a lot of things now. It's all homegrown, based out of all the the people up here and the administration throughout the other buildings. That includes paying our own to sort of present, and it also includes bringing people in from the outside, the experts. You've heard some of the names before. Cornelius Minor continues to come back and have a huge impact on how we instruct on the middle and high school level. We've done some work with New Perspectives, that's our math program at the elementary level, a lot of professional development around those lessons. Chris Wright is someone who we've been using through her program on restorative practices in terms of over the last year or so. We've done a lot that helps teachers build relationship with students, with each other, and in the little work that she's done here, it's had a huge impact in terms of culture within the buildings and between our staff and our students. And also Kim Marshall is another person that you've probably heard about. He's working with us in relation to our teacher evaluation program, which we're required by our state to reevaluate and restructure. We've been working hand in hand with our GTLC, our Groton Teaching and Learning Committee, as well as the GEA. We're all part of that committee, working together to build a program, again, that is meant for improvement, is meant for growth. It's not meant for a gotcha. It's not meant to catch people so we can fire people. It's meant to really have each of the teachers this year choose a goal for their own professional growth. We're still monitoring test scores. We're still mining data on a daily basis. It's not directly tied to the evaluation program. It's something we just do every day. It's how we look at ourselves every day. But this new movement now is towards their own professional growth. That is also being supported in this budget in terms of they're setting those goals, and we want to support them on how they're going to reach those goals, whether that means some of them are doing their own research, some of them might have to go to workshops for their own professional development, but we're trying to support that as best we can through our budget when we can. And we've also worked with this HEAL program, which is raising the awareness of LGBTQ plus issues. The travel, again, I know that's come up in just about every conversation that we've had here for workshops and conventions. Those will tend to go up as we're moving farther away from the virtual trainings back to the in-person trainings. Anybody who's ever taken part in a virtual training, they have their positives just out of convenience, but they also tend to not be as effective. And you can turn the camera off, you can do other things, you get distracted. I've taken part in both, and I think most people can agree that the in-person learning is where the real learning happens. So we do try to support that when we can. So again, that's been a priority this year, especially with the work we've been doing around our evaluation program. I think I've hit everything that's on this sheet, and we can open it up to questions, I guess, if anybody has any.
Jen?
You want to turn
Jen,
on your...
can you turn on your mic?
2 questions.
Sure.
Overall, do you believe that the teachers are happy and and from a retention?
I can't hear the question.
Oh. Overall, do you believe the teachers are happy, and from a retention purpose, as we're funding or supporting their graduate coursework, does that tie into some of the presentation, I believe Principal Brown mentioned, where they're tying it into additional course offerings at the IB level and AP, and teachers trying to get certified to have those type of courses?
Sure. Well, to answer your first question, and I appreciate you asking the question, are teachers happy? Because teacher social and emotional well-being has been at the top of our conversation list for quite some time. Of course, we're always concerned about our students, but we want to make sure that the teachers are supported as well. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we're trying to provide a lot of supports. I know, especially we have some people around the district whose professional growth goals are in that area, with the hopes that they will provide. And I know some training has already happened with some teachers at the high school, with the high school staff, and we're looking.
A big one on March 8th, too.
Yeah.
A big to-do.
And we're looking to expand that to possibly a full day of social emotional well-being for staff on that March 8th for staff. I think the response so far to the teacher evaluation has been very positive. We took a poll after the first few months. A big change in this program is multiple visits to the classroom, shorter observations. We cut back the paperwork that was such a pain for so many people. And they're enjoying having the administrators see
talk to
their
them.
practice in action.
Personal.
And it also requires a face-to-face feedback meeting. And having that time with their administrators. Again, this is from survey and plus day-to-day conversations with people. They're really enjoying having that time to discuss their practice with their administrators. So their mid-year meetings are coming up in February, and then we're going to poll them again to check on that progress and see how things are going. So I think we're trying to provide as much as we can to help support them, and I do think some of these initiatives that we've put in place have accomplished that goal in terms of taking some level of pressure off of them and allowed them to pursue some things that they'd want to do. The second part of your question was, yes, I would. We're trying to encourage more teachers to pursue their passions. With always the question is, what is this going to do for you, and then what is this going to do for your building, and what is this going to do for the district? Not just sending people off to conferences willy-nilly, but the conversation that's supposed to happen upon their return is, okay, what are you going to do with this information? Is it based on your department or your grade level? Is this something you can offer to the building, or even something larger, to the full district? So we are trying to encourage that.
I would say, too, that the happiness factor, we survey a lot. We survey after every single PD, and we do focus groups around the schools. We're getting ready to do them now, where, we just sit and listen. So we usually hear, or even people reach out to us if something's really good or really not good. Sometimes the in-between we're not always hearing about, but we usually hear, so.
I hope I
Good
answered all
that
your questions.
They're taken care of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's always a point of conversation in just about every meeting I'm in.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other budget questions for Phil? Adrian?
Yeah, I'm just going off of what Jenna's just asked. Is there a difference between the buildings on basically how the teachers are doing, or their well-being or happiness? And I'm mostly curious about, it seemed like there's been a lot of people leaving, at least from what I've heard, the middle school more than other schools. So I'm just wondering if that's a place we're striving.
That's definitely something we can have a discussion about. We're trying to stick it to the budget tonight. But I think we could definitely have a deep conversation about that. And we do also do the surveys.
Culture climate survey,
Yeah, the culture and climate survey.
And I
will be
think
coming
Peter
up.
has reached out. I think both the middle school and the high school felt a little bit of that tension last year. And I think there's been a lot of change this year from what I'm hearing. And they are actually surveying, I think, additionally, and doing focus groups themselves, listening to their teachers.
I know a lot of their goals were based off of those staff surveys last year. So I do think that'd be a great topic of conversation
Yeah.
for principals to be a part of. Definitely.
Yeah.
And
Actually,
teachers.
Can we get very quickly, can we get the results of that survey from last year?
Yep.
I know that Rita had asked, because there wasn't many teacher comments that were given to the board, and I think Rita had asked for all the teacher comments, so I'm just wondering if the board could see the
We'd
results.
have to dig that up.
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
we
know where to
could get
find
that,
it.
and I think it was a matter of
That was,
just
yeah.
redacting if there are any names or
Yeah,
any
we just
specific
had to take
identifying
things
factors.
out
in the
that
comments.
weren't, we didn't want to identify anybody.
Thanks.
All right, any other questions for Phil?
I think Ian has.
Ian,
Yeah.
Ian, go ahead, Ian.
Oh, sorry. Hi. So, thank you for the presentation. A couple of things. One, as an educator myself, I definitely can appreciate the value of professional development and all the supports there with it, but overall, the needs of the district, do have to take some priority, and I'm just wondering if there's any consideration here. I see the notes for the ARP ESSER funds. Some of these things were covered by that, but now will not be. So as we move into the more substantial part of the budget, I would suggest that we maybe have some extra information attached to show how these things were funded prior to the ARP ESSER funds being allocated to us over the past couple of years. Number two, again, valuing professional development and valuing teachers' sense of contentment. Still, we have to counterbalance that with situation that we just had with the tutors. Are we looking in every single area where we can, maybe this year is not the year to restore so much funding to the training. Maybe we, phase it in a little slower to make sure that we can accommodate all the other positions that we're trying to absorb on as our BESSER is phased out. Definitely I want to echo Adrian's sentiments on wanting to get some sense of direct feedback from the teachers and tutors and all our employees, however anonymized, redacted for names and privacy concerns, but just general direct feedback to understand, because again, as a Board of Ed, we're here to help oversee the whole district and not just represent one aspect of the administration or of the staff or of the students, but sort of the holistic approach. So we sort of need that information. And just a clerical note, this was the third or fourth, there's a few other presentations tonight that went up on the screen where what was being shown on the screen did not really correlate with what we were giving in our agenda package, so it made it kind of hard to track. I hope in the big book version of the budget that we're going to have a more, if we're going to be looking at middle school costs, then we should have a middle school breakout section that is attached to that. If we're looking at high school costs, we should have a high school. Having these function codes the way they are is useful to a certain degree, but it's also limiting when we start talking about, well, how does this proportionally break down for this school? And then people don't have that information. We have to wait and then follow up in an email. I would encourage everyone involved to try to anticipate, and I've been trying to send my questions in ahead of time as well, areas of interest. But I think it's very important that we bring as much possible information to the table, especially when we're doing presentations like this, to be ready to handle, some questions that, are likely to be asked. So just wanted to share all that. As far as the numbers go, again, it was a little hard to track because what was presented on the screen doesn't align with what I'm looking at here. So I'll have to do a little more analysis on that before I can get a more articulated question out later on in the process. So I'm hoping that big book version of the budget has a great amount of detail in there. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Dean?
Yeah. Once again, I think Ian was thinking the same thing that I was, which was what did it look like in the before time? I have a suspicion that these were not items that were yanked out of our operating budget or because they were funded all of a sudden by ARP-ESSER. I think that they were added on. But I can dig into my vast archives, but I've got last year's book, and it only goes back to 21, 22, which I don't remember whether these numbers were funded by ARP-ESSER, the same range number. So I too am curious to know whether these things were in our budget before, whether they were of this magnitude, and how we were paying for them in the before time.
Any other questions?
Is it time?
No.
Just a quick follow-up, I guess, just to be clear.
No,
Okay,
please.
so,
Hello. Hey.
all right, I think Matthew had a question.
I did, but am I interrupting you, Ian? Are you done?
No.
Matthew had raised his hand.
Motion to adjourn. I wanted to make sure I got my last question in before that.
Well, I thought we were, I'm sorry, I
Go
thought we
ahead,
were
Matthew.
done. But Matthew has a question.
I had Thank you. One statement, could we please number the pages by, you break it down by color or chapter or something, because it just, and check that some of them are in order. That would be very helpful. I had a concern about how we're going to evaluate tutorial positions. If I understood Susan correctly, and maybe I didn't, we're going to move quite a few people over to our budget. We're not going to move everybody over to our budget, was implicit in what I heard, though it wasn't stated. So I'm wondering how we can get a sense across disciplines, across locations, as to what changes are best. We're going to have this discussion later. It's not for tonight. But I took the time to try to do a template. I remembered what Katrina said about the visualizing things. So I think I've got enough for everybody here. If you pass them down, this is not meant, this may not be the best piece. The question is, this is just a jumping off point. If you all could take a look, if we could figure out some way to color code the number of people we have at each location by the subject matter that they're teaching, or some other device that you may feel is better. That will give us a sense as we look at the tough questions that are going to come as to how the board can reach an informed decision. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yes.
Andrea?
So just to reiterate, first off, all the stuff that was presented tonight that was not included in the packet, if we could have that emailed to us, that'd be great. Greatly appreciated. Two, I'd like to have very specific breakouts as far as everything that is identified as being that we're going to try to take on from ARP ESSER closing, to have that specified, where was it before in the budget? To have that on a simple sheet, or two, that would be good. I think that's about it. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Oh,
Adrian?
one more thing. Any comments that are-
Adrian raised his hand, Ian.
sorry.
Mike, I'm just wondering, are we going to get a new budget? Because it seems like all the parts and pieces of it that we've been given don't fit together. They're not in order. They can't really be put in order.
Well, because we were going by chapter, so that's why the numbers don't go in sequential order. We can
support the chapter.
we can certainly just put them in sequential order if that's easier for you. Meaning function 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus by chapter.
Yeah, I just interfile them numerically.
Whatever's easier for you.
I asked-
They came out by chapter, but you just can interfile them. So
I asked for them to be numbered.
I can
last
send them to you digitally in their normal order, so, or send them out hard copy if you'd like.
Yep.
We're gonna have them all for the end of the week, so if you'd rather have just a whole set in numerical order, we were just trying to do it by chapter so you could see what supported the things that we were talking about at the time.
Is it-
All right. Ian?
Yeah, so also one more note, all the stuff that we're trying to figure out and do follow-ups in email, I think it'd be important to allow for some segment of communication reports in these budget sessions so that as we have these follow-up questions answered, we can just report that out on camera as part of the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? Andrea?
Is it time? A second motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second? Jen, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.